Daniel sat quietly beside the bed, eyes not on the girl but on the wall beside her. The second princess, Aramaya, lay asleep, her breathing soft and even. He wasn't watching her out of sentimentality but out of necessity. It had been 3 days since she nearly drowned, and while she had shown remarkable improvement, Daniel knew the danger hadn't entirely passed. Secondary drowning could strike hours or even days after the event, fluid lingering in the lungs, waiting for a moment of vulnerability. Twice already she'd gone under again, her body fighting him as he worked to bring her back. Both times, he had succeeded. Now, he simply wanted to make sure she wouldn't slip away while no one was watching. There was no hospital here. Healing magic was incredible for lacerations and wounds, but bones? Fractured ribs from CPR weren't worth the agony of magical mending. Rest and careful watching were the prescribed remedy. Daniel had performed CPR with precision, but there were limits. He hadn't expected to be the only person who knew the procedure, but it made sense. Rikudo was a college student, not a soldier, diver or electrician, professions where Daniel had learned CPR himself. Still, he often had to remind himself that most of these people were younger than they looked. Time in this world ran differently. The days were 29 hours long, skewing natural age progression. Aramaya, by Earth years, would be 14. By her world's reckoning, barely 10. Daniel, with his 32 years, appeared to be in his early 20s thanks to a twist of fate that granted him a decade of extra youth upon arriving here. He wasn't sure if he aged by Earth's or this world's standards, but he tried to track the 450-day years just in case. He was no hero. No knight. Just a humble assembler of tools, machines, and whatever else people brought him. Nobility and etiquette meant little to him. When someone was in danger and he could help, he did. Which was why, on the 4th day, he stood again before King Regent Rikudo. Daniel. Your Majesty, Daniel greeted formally, despite knowing what was coming. Rikudo's eyes were weary, his hands clasped nervously. I have to send you to the front lines. Daniel nodded. He'd expected as much. Duke Extragar claims that Aramaya's honor has been compromised, Rikudo continued bitterly. And the nobles are rallying behind that claim. Daniel bowed his head slightly. I understand, Rikudo-san. I am grateful for the breath I still draw. Talaxes, the Prime Minister, added quietly, you'll be taken to Fort Twilight as a prisoner, though no harm should come to you on the way. Once there, you are to follow lawful orders. Am I a slave then? No, Talaxes said, but you are no longer free. Daniel accepted this. He didn't resist when guards arrived. As they led him through the halls, the castle staff whispered, watching the tall man escorted away. A small green-skinned woman bumped into them. Oh, sorry. Am Mr. Daniel. Lady Ahak? Daniel smiled gently. She asked about his bookbinding method. He knelt and explained it, whispering that he was fine, even as the guards waited. Are you sure? Should I tell someone? Daniel grinned. Why does no one believe me? I'm a terrible liar. The guards resumed the march, one muttering, makes you wonder if saving her was worth it. Daniel didn't hesitate. It was. She's a child. They shared a brief moment of laughter and humanity before he was locked into the transport cart, hidden from the public. Back at the palace, Grand Duchess Arameliana and her daughters arrived in force. Lady Ahak's inquiry had sparked the alarm. Daniel was gone. The Grand Duchess stormed into the audience chamber where Duke Extragar and his son were lamenting before Rikudo. Halt! Barked the guards. Move or arrest me, Arameliana growled. They moved. She accused the Duke and his son of conspiring to kill a national hero. Her elite Stalvoltan guard backed her. Rikudo tried diplomacy. This is unnecessary. We could have discussed this. No, she replied. You were manipulated. You held a shadow trial without consulting me. You violated the treatises. By those terms, House Stalvoltan revokes its alliance. Tension filled the chamber. Arameliana continued. You were told her dignity mattered more than her life. That is a lie. You knew better. The Duke protested, insulting Daniel. Arameliana ordered his arrest. Rikudo, seeing the truth in her words and the trap that had been set for him, relented. Guards, hand them over. The Duke and his son screamed as they were dragged away. Arameliana counted his interruptions. 5, said her captain. Take a finger. Rikudo pleaded for leniency. 1 finger then, she agreed coldly. The deed was done. The Duke screamed, fainting. His son sobbed. As they departed, when Liana whispered, Mother, you would go to war for me? For Daniel. I would go to war for all of you, Arameliana said. She turned to all 5 daughters. Nobility is about boundaries. Fail to defend them, and others will dismantle your house piece by piece. They nodded solemnly. Yanadir whispered, Daniel would make a fine Grand Duke. When Lyanna blushed furiously, Arameliana chuckled. Now, all that remained was to bring Daniel back, and shift the balance of power once more. Daniel knew nothing about shattered treaties or fractured alliances. He had no clue about noble power plays or the delicate balance of political influence tipping toward collapse. He lounged quietly in the back of the prison carriage, bumping along a dusty road toward the edge of the known world, at least, as defined by this world's residents. The guards escorting him had treated him with respect, aware that he was not some criminal, but rather an unlucky outsider caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. They had even shared recent gossip during rest stops. Apparently, one of the allied kingdoms, Bromlund, was being embargoed by the Empire for shady dealings, money laundering, double-selling arms, trading on credit, and other offenses. Although Daniel's transport was military, not commercial, the embargo posed risks. As a summoned hero, he was an asset, better to remain unnoticed. Daniel had no magical power, so if captured, he would be of little use. Playing dumb was his best defense. The embargo forced the caravan to reroute, adding nearly 2 weeks to their journey. Rikuto had given one clear instruction: Daniel must arrive at Fort Twilight alive and well. The carriage had a small barred window, giving Daniel a glimpse of this colorful new world. Trees boasted vivid leaves in hues that reminded him of cherry blossoms, though it wasn't spring or autumn. The climate felt steady, temperate, different from Earth's dramatic seasonal shifts. The world was as diverse in people as in flora. Daniel had seen races that bore human traits alongside animalistic features: bovine people, feline Gatanines with ears, tails, and charming purrs, and canine tribes more beast than man. Crab-like amphibious creatures thrived in naval roles, and towering magical cities testified to their power. At one camp, after passing a weapons-forging town, Daniel stretched his legs beside a stream while guards cleaned up. The smoke smell still clung to them. One guard, asked about Fort Twilight, shared what little he knew. It's a valley fortress, he explained. The mountains do most of the work. It's not the main garrison, that's further east. Twilight's more of a bulwark, or bait. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Why not tunnel through the mountains instead? They're full of a magic-resistant element. No one's sure what it is, but it deadens magic for miles. Makes tunneling nearly impossible. Even with mundane tools, the rock's tougher than steel. Daniel pondered aloud. It could be absorbing mana, like neutron poisons in reactors. Thank goodness I never told Rikuto I worked in nuclear power. He had vowed not to forge weapons, but that was before he was being sent to the end of the world. Idle hands, after all, often found purpose. Back at the heart of the kingdom, King Regent Rikuto arrived at the Grand Duchy of Stalvalten. The alliance had fractured, but not crumbled. 12 major noble houses had pledged to the duchy, with lesser houses and knights following suit. Arameliana, the Grand Duchess, had not overthrown the king when she had the chance. Rikuto knew how lucky he was. He was greeted with decorum at the estate, Arameliana flanked by her children, though when Lyanna, the shy magic artisan, was absent. Your Majesty. Was your trip brief? Your Grace. It was, thank you. I've come to speak of restoring stability. Foolish. But noble. Let's speak inside. The guards escorted them to the dining hall, alternating between royal and Stalvalten. Tension lingered beneath polite smiles. After the meal, Arameliana dismissed the servants and her younger daughters. Let's talk rumors, Your Majesty. What are they saying? Rikuto played the diplomat. Noble houses are splitting. Many duchies and counties support you, especially long-standing allies. Knights and untitled lords lean your way too. Arameliana corrected him with a smile. Actually, most formal titles support the castle. Verbal pledges are where the division hides. Her daughter Yanadir added, it would benefit us to compare written and verbal pledges. The real traitors hide behind words, not ink. Rikuto hesitated. It risks exposing our allies. Another daughter Yormalit offered, but if everyone sees the numbers, we might avoid war. Arameliana dismissed the guards. We need privacy. Once alone, she called softly, when Lyanna. The door creaked open, and the artisan entered, setting a glowing device on the table. This should block all surveillance, if it works right. Arameliana smiled. Now we speak truth. Don't worry, I'll repeat the lies when the spell ends. She dropped the bomb. Duke Zoranwine tried to have Daniel executed.
We confirmed it. Rikuto reeled. Why?
Wenliana answered bitterly. Because Aramaya was once betrothed to Zoranwine's son. Then your fiancé replaced her. Daniel saving her humiliated them.
Rikuto frowned, puzzled.
If they wanted revenge, why not go after Aramaya directly? Arameliana narrowed her eyes.
You suspect something. He nodded slowly. What if
Aramaya's fall wasn't an accident? The device's glow faded. Rikuto resumed a polite tone. I'm sure we can finalize details tomorrow. Your insight, Your Grace, is invaluable.
She smirked.
Of course, Your Majesty.
We remain allies.
Their shared glance said more than words.
War might still be avoided.
But they were both preparing for a purge of the truly treacherous.
Just then, a guard burst in.
Urgent message about the artisan. Wenliana gasped.
Daniel.
The soldier handed over a letter. As it was read, the color drained from several faces. Status report, artisan retrieval and escort.
Situation dire. Half squad lost.
Capital of Bromlund in chaos.
Haven't located artisan.
Territory in lockdown.
Forced retreat. Apologies.
Lieutenant Vestrich.
Silence.
Wenliana whispered, he's lost. Arameliana didn't reply. Yormalit spoke.
We could send aid.
Stabilize Bromlund. Use their forces to find him.
Rikuto nodded.
This could benefit us all. That Gulf access would be strategic. Arameliana mused, what treasures lie in Bromlund, indeed. Wenliana murmured again, but what about Daniel?
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Chaos, asks Daniel as the guards let him out so they can make camp. When they had first approached the kingdom of Bromlund, there were rumors of unrest, which urged his escort to make a detour. There wasn't a crucial rush on them arriving at a specific time, so a delay won't be noticed unless he never arrives. However, as the guards just mentioned, they're way off course now thanks to that unrest, which, as their most recent town indicates, has descended into much more than unrest. The elder guard nods as he replies, that's what we heard in town. Apparently, merchants are fleeing Bromlund in droves, and it's gotten so bad the border's been completely closed. The younger guard, who usually helps Daniel with the tents, scoffs. Good thing we didn't end up crossing the border then.
Good call, Sergeant.
The elder guard agrees warmly, couldn't agree more. Apparently, the kingdom tried to raise their taxes, which only made things worse, and the people have finally revolted. Don't know who would have been worse to run into, their military or revolting commoners. Daniel chuckled uneasily. I'm glad you dodged that for us.
Thank you.
A shame it came to that. The younger guard replied warmly, I'm glad we're members of Mornisti. King Regent Rikuto can lower taxes all he wants. The guards and Daniel all chuckled. While Daniel hasn't had to worry much about finances himself up to this point, he agrees on the principle that higher taxes rarely leads to a good place. Any time they can be lowered is a win for everyone generally. Well, except for the corrupt. Daniel and Rikuto don't really have the opportunity to be corrupt, since both of their respective roles were above where they were before in their world. Daniel asked, so, how long until Fort Twilight then with the detour? Well, remarks the navigator, who has yet to speak during this particular break. Anyway, I figure it, we can't really get there now. Part of the mountain range touches Bromlund territory, and the other side connects to the Gulf. If we continue this way, we'd have to find a border crossing and risk getting dragged into their internal affairs. If we try to return south and go around across the Gulf, we'd have to get a ferry. And with Bromlund distracted, piracy is likely to see a rise on the Gulf. The sergeant leading them rubs his chin thoughtfully.
Such a pain.
Do you think we could cross an open part of their border?
Off-road? It's possible.
But we'd have to do it entering and leaving, and if we're caught at any point, they could treat us as smugglers, even if drafting was off the table. Kingdoms can draft other nations' soldiers in this world? With a nod, the sergeant confirms, it's not much different than captured enemies, homeless or poor farmers. We'd be lucky to be given sharpened sticks and cast to the front lines. Fight for your freedom or die. Given that it's a revolution, they'd be more interested in taking our supplies and gear. In any case, if we came across anyone, we'd likely be better off fighting to the death and trying to flee. Odds of survival wouldn't be great either way. Refusing conscription just gives us better odds of going home, rather than remaining conscripted or slaves if they learn who we were in the aftermath. The guards nod together. Daniel is left with a fair amount to think about for a bit, since he didn't realize, just for being capable of fighting, another military might try to conscript them in times of emergency. It makes sense, and it probably happens more than he realizes on Earth, but it seems like it could be self-defeating. But then, even Daniel knows why Rikudo's strategies to lower taxes worked and raising taxes failed Bromlund. Rikudo enticed more transactions to take place, increasing money in circulation. Bromlund simply tried milking a weary cow past its limits. The navigator suggests, we could take Mr. Daniel to Fort Peie, Sergeant. They'd be able to report his arrival, as well as the reasons for delivering him there. If and when the route to Fort Twilight opens up, they could see him shipped there in turn. The sergeant nods in agreement. Yes, I think that may be our best and safest option at this point. I think the intent is still met, and if they really desperately need him at Twilight, they can send him across the west of the mountains. Daniel smirks. That's the demon side of the mountains, isn't it? The guards chuckle and nod, while the sergeant admits, yeah,
it is.
Daniel smirks, but he replies sincerely, I know I'm just the lowly prisoner, but I think it sounds like a good plan. Definitely inspires me not to try to flee from you guys, at least. The young guard jokes, no more than before anyways. Well, that goes without saying. They all share a chuckle together and set about on their agreed tasks to make camp. Once more, Daniel doesn't actually want to flee. He has nowhere to go in this world. He still harbors some hope of returning home, so even though he was having fun working with Wenliana and living with her family, he fears getting too attached to them. The timing may have been a little late for all of this to occur, even as he suspects that Wenliana was becoming more reliant on him than she needs to be. Fortunately, he left his phone for her after explaining how to use the things that are useful to her. She can sift through it for much of the knowledge that he has, and more, in addition to the sketches and notes he left behind for her. She'll figure it out and become one of the most legendary magic artisans in this world. Daniel was just a crutch in the grand scheme of things. So, how long to Fort Peie then? The navigator replies as they work, should be around 2 more weeks. They're about the same distance away, just on different portions of the mountain range. Peie, though, is so strategically out of the way, it's probably the only fort that's never been attacked by demons. But conversely, it's not easy to attack the demons from there, so the stalemate continues. The sergeant jokes, those pesky mountains, keeping us all from killing each other.
Darn rocks.
The sergeant uses his basic flame affinity to cast a spell and light the fire, while the young guard refills their canteens with his water affinity. Not everyone has a strong affinity for magic, but other than Daniel, there aren't any known people in the world who can't cast at least something. Daniel's used to it, but he still notices it every time. However, he was accustomed to having no special powers in his old world. He'll survive having no special powers in this world as well. The days pass by similarly, though each town they pass through has increasingly dire news of Bromlund and the revolution tearing it apart. Now the Empire has begun delegating refugees, while the nobility have seemingly fled, those that could escape, as anarchy claims a large swath of a once stable nation. As they're parked to resupply, Daniel overhears a conversation with the guards outside.
Oh, you're from Mornisti?
Were you not sent to Bromlund?
Sent to Bromlund?
Why would we be?
You haven't heard?
Mornisti has dispatched troops, including the Stalvolten 4th Battalion, to quell the uprising.
Daniel flinches. Stalvolten?
That's Wenliana's family. Aren't there troops, commandos or something? This must have occurred after our departure. We're headed for Fort Peie.
Oh, fair enough.
Sometimes, I forget we're even at war with the demons. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Better than people dying left and right.
True that.
Well then, blessings for you and yours back home.
Same to you. Take care.
The second youngest guard hands Daniel his rations through the bars of his window, saying quietly, I never would have guessed. The sergeant replies, also keeping his voice low, it might be a diplomatic action. King Rikudo strikes me as the sort to be helpful, but for a price. Daniel murmurs, if the Grand Duchess is sending troops, I suspect she's looking to gain as well. Our kingdom is landlocked, isn't it? It is, excluding rivers. You think they're after the Gulf? Probably the biggest and only reason for a recently recovering economy to aid a seafaring nation ripping itself apart. The navigator replies, though the guards are pretending not to talk to Daniel specifically, annexation of territory would be impossible during the war with the demons. It was part of the neutrality doctrine the Empire made everyone sign. Those who didn't receive no protection, but those who did would be sanctioned for wasting resources. And which one is each kingdom?
Not sure for Bromland.
We're definitely part of the doctrine. If either you or King Rikudo had arrived with battle-favorable gifts from the gods, you'd likely be halfway to the demon tyrant's castle by now. I'd guess anyways. Daniel smirks to himself. The irony isn't lost on him of how much this world aligns with fiction from his world. It would be dreamy if he wasn't being carted off to the front lines with virtually nothing to protect himself. Especially because he's in a world of magic, but can't use any of his own. That said, it could be worse, of course. He magically got younger, but has all of his wisdom and knowledge from his life on Earth. Why, he's not sure. Clearly the gods made strange decisions when they summoned him and Rikudo. The sergeant states, "We'll keep moving for now. We should probably meet with a garrison, though, and try to send a message. Though, at this point, it may be better to just wait until we get there. It should only be a couple more days." "Is there any concern of the territory we're in drafting us for any reason?" asks Daniel softly. The sergeant replies honestly, "I don't think so, since Matarglos notoriously keeps to themselves. They got a bit of the bottom loaf in terms of land, and no one really desires to conquer them, while their people remain proud of their little domain. Mostly small folk anyways, Gatanines, imps and the like. Probably the only kingdom where humans are neither the majority nor the rulers."
I see.
"So, probably a lot of warrior tribes here then."
Yeah.
"How'd you know?"
Daniel chuckles.
"If a country's rough to live in, at least in what I know from my world's history, typically, it's survival of the fittest, which naturally breeds strong warriors. Only when technology can overcome those hardships do warrior ways tend to fade." "Your world always sounds like something. I don't know, impossible."
My world?
"Until I arrived here, magic was impossible."
Guess not much has changed, huh?
The guards chuckle, and they tap their fists on the cart, checking that it's solid. For a bunch of fellow soldiers, even if Daniel's service was brief and in a different field, the solidarity is reassuring for all of them. The last couple of days of the journey are mostly dark, as the carriage travels a winding and precarious valley through towering mountains, along cliff sides, and past a raging waterfall. The scenery is beautiful, and he could spend hours gazing on it. He asks the guards, since no one's around, "You guys think I'll be allowed to hike here from the fort?"
The sergeant chuckles, "Dunno.
You play nice with the fortress guards like you have us, and anything's possible. Not like you'd be able to walk all the way out of the valley the way we came."
True that.
The navigator adds, "I've heard receiving the mist of the waterfall is considered good luck."
Don't worry, Daniel.
"It seems the gods are watching out for you, even when it doesn't feel like it." Daniel nods as he listens to both the guards and the waterfall. "I was never particularly spiritual in my world, but hard to deny there must be some purpose for me here, right?" The guards nod in agreement. "If nothing else, I'm waiting for the lady artisan, Duchess Wenliana, to start selling your mechanisms. My wife's been begging me to find out from the castle when these water pumps will be available." Daniel chuckles, "I'm sure they'll make them as quick as possible."
Who knows?
Maybe she's already got some being made as we speak." The guards are quiet for a moment. Everyone present knows it was a little unfair, to Wenliana most of all, to spirit away her assistant without warning. But they also knew she'd put up the biggest fight and stir the ire of the other nobles. Daniel suddenly states quietly, "Thank you guys."
What? Asks the sergeant. Thank you.
"I know you're a long way from home, all for the sake of keeping the peace. Thanks for treating me so well all this way." "Hey, it's our jobs, right?" "Yeah, besides, it sounds like you know what it's like, am I right? We're kindred spirits, Mr. Daniel. That's why, you'll ride out whatever this nonsense with the nobles is, wait for the second princess to make a fuss, and for King Rikudo to realize your value outweighs that of the nobles."
Daniel laughs.
"As always, I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm a tinkerer. I obviously can't turn water into gold."
Are you sure? If you could. I'm sure.
It was fiction in my world. Magic. So, even if it were possible in this world, it's obviously not going to be me. "Yeah, well, if you do figure it out anyways, Mr. Daniel, you let me know first. I'll give you 99% of the profits." The navigator glares at the sergeant. "Huh? Who decided your magic will work? What about the rest of us?" "That insolence is why Mr. Daniel and I will retire on our gold making, and I'm gonna buy myself my own ship and sail the world."
Ha!
The dreams of an old man. The guards and Daniel all laugh once more. Daniel states warmly, "If I figure it out, you'll be the first ones to know. I'll make sure of it. So don't you die on me either.
It's a deal then.
Daniel knows it isn't possible. If something like that could be done with magic, there are mages far smarter than he is that could figure it out. He can tell by the footprints behind them as they travel just a little further that they're getting close to the fort itself. Hopefully, he can make a decent first impression.
Oh, Lady Fredgtenger. Hi. How are you?
Rukana giddily waves at her senior, who is headed somewhere in the divine realm. All of the gods and goddesses use the location as a sort of base of operations, equating something to a capital, in terms of human systems. From the divine realm, they nurture and preserve the balance between order and chaos, so that life may exist throughout the universe. After all, like life itself, they are children of the bond between order and chaos, the perpetual dance the two ruling goddesses are ever locked in. Fredgtenger is sporting a fairly serious expression, but she waves at Rukana briefly, and the happy-go-lucky young goddess continues on her way. It's been about a year since she sent a hero forth to answer a divine summons, and he seemed much more cautious and intelligent than a typical warrior type. He'll likely mobilize the world against the threat, rather than fight the threat head-on, which is actually a preferable solution. Fortunately, the world wasn't in a precarious state, and caution is the better option, as the peculiar threat seems to similarly be moving slowly, marching its army towards the other living beings of that world, intent on destroying every last one of them. Normally, global wars aren't a reason for the divine realm to take action, but if the world itself performs the divine summoning, a tribute is offered, and so, a hero is sent in exchange. Rukana is a rather senior goddess herself, having performed hundreds of hero summonings through the course of her existence. While the divine summons can be a surprise, the chosen hero consents to being sent to the other world, or another chosen one is selected. The process is generally random, as the bulk of the work is done once a hero is chosen, and gifts are bestowed upon them to fit into the world, while also giving them a carefully calculated ability that will serve them well. In Rukana's case, she long ago learned that obsessive observation and checking in on heroes can create the illusion of security. Oh, the goddess is looking out for me, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Unfortunately, the original design around the hero summons is something Chaos is said to have come up with, and Order agreed with her. Life can always restart. If something is worth existing, it must overcome destruction. That is the way of existence. Rukana's heard Chaos say such words dozens of times, and it makes her heart flutter. Chaos doesn't want life to exist for the mere entertainment of the divine, she wants life to exist for chaos and order. Creation, destruction, life, death, war, peace, love and disappointment, all things that have defined the nature of Chaos's relationship with order since beginningless time. All things that she believes give meaning to existence. Rukana often tries to spoil her heroes, but she's been reprimanded before, so this last time, she stayed within the bounds of normal. If he searches well enough, though, he'll find the secret gift she left for him, which will make him have all the power he could ever possibly need. As she's passing by a usual gathering place for mingling, her ears pick up her name, followed by, "Oof, remind me not to get on her bad side."
Right?
Can't imagine what the poor sap did. Must have been something heinous.
Didn't he come from Earth?
I didn't think anyone there even knew her name. Rukana halted mid-step, certain now they're talking about her. She pivots with an icy and sinister smile, trying to hide her rage, and failing miserably. She walks briskly over, trying her best to maintain her statue-like smile, and she engages them coldly. "Pardon. I couldn't help but overhear. What about my hero?"
"You Lady Rukana."
Both Stellarmine and Dram, junior goddess and god respectively, bow politely.
"We.
I followed the rules this time.
For once.
Is there a problem with giving my hero void magic, fire magic, and magic healing? I'll gladly send him more. How much more do you think would be sufficient with your experience, Her smile is terrifying, since it was her pride and experience being questioned. What she just said is the whole truth. She'd gladly continue to spoil her heroes, even if it means some end up becoming a problem themselves down the road.
Forgive us, Lady Rukana," pleads Stellarmine.
But we weren't talking about Rikudo.
Oh?
I have no other active heroes at present.
So, who could you possibly mean?
The other man. Daniel, I think his name was.
Excuse me.
Dram murmurs, trying to distract Rukana's wrath briefly away from the faltering goddess. You sent 2 heroes from Earth, didn't you? Or rather, Rikudo as a hero and Daniel. Everyone believes. She grips his collar snarling. Believes what? Spit it out. That he earned your ire somehow. My ire.
Rukana recoils. How so?
Why dash? You sent him to that world without magic or skills. Stellarmine is worried, watching the senior goddess's face. How could anyone think that of her, Rukana, the goddess most scolded for gifting her heroes with too much power? She doesn't require worship from any of the worlds she oversees. Most don't even know she exists. They worship their own gods and goddesses in their own way, and some even worship evil forces.
She doesn't mind.
But she loves the peoples of her world in the way she so admires chaos for. She has no hatred or ire for anybody. And if she selected them to answer a summoning ritual in a different world, she certainly wouldn't send anyone she hates. Rikudo was a polite and respectful person, and the moment she began speaking to him, she could see the gears were turning. He was planning out how to tackle the challenge ahead of him. But if this Daniel person, who was apparently also summoned from Earth, is known by everyone else,
Who the heck could he be?
there's no way. I just remembered. I'm late for something. Byyyyyee. She tries to make her voice friendly and song-like, but panic is setting in. Rukana has sent hundreds of heroes forth over the eons, serving worlds that would be obliterated otherwise.
Some succeeded. Some failed.
Still others became problems requiring new heroes. All of them were granted immense magical power by Rukana to save the worlds they were being sent to. What's more, if she sent someone from Earth to a world with magic and monsters without any boosts to level the playing field, she might as well have sent a toddler to an inevitable doom. Rukana dashes into the summoning hall, where a summoning is taking place. She feigns a patient and revered smile, watching and waiting for the process to complete. It takes longer than anything else in her life, including being scolded. She was fine with being scolded when she helped her heroes too much. It's why, every few heroes, she does the same again. But in this case, there's potentially a life she ruined, a person she wasted, that is out there somewhere. She doesn't care about reprimand. If it's true, he's one of her heroes, and she owes him more than a simple apology. She watches as the painfully slow ritual concludes, and the observers and the god performing the summoning makes his way out. No sooner is the room clear does she pounce on the control unit. She frantically scrolls through to find her last summoning, and Rikudo's image pops up, just as expected. She searches for a second entry, as well as an attachment. Rikudo is and always has been a man, so a second life in the form of a fetus is impossible. Could it be an absorbed, twin-turned-teratogenous cystoma? It's one of the many things possible for a human, but it would be a stretch to assume that's what the others mean. It's true she hadn't peeked in on Rikudo since sending him, as she wanted him to have time to adjust, and if he called for her, she would answer. Rukana finds a secluded place, and she calls out to the observers, her archangels that serve as her eyes in the world. Within moments, all 12 of the observers appear before Rukana, and they kneel.
My lady.
Faithful observers, have you spoken to others about my most recent summoning? The leading archangel bows his head reverently. It has come up in casual conversation, my lady. We have spoken only what little facts we know. We make no assumptions on your wisdom.
All right. Of course.
But I should have asked you, what are your thoughts on the matter? I wish to know if I overcorrected. The archangels share a glance with each other, and Rukana knows at once she's in trouble. He may not be in the record for some reason, but there is a person from Earth unaccounted for. My lady, as mentioned, we do not make assumptions. And we have not spoken of our own thoughts before now. Forgive me for saying so, but perhaps if we were made to understand, we could share this wisdom with others. Rukana asks nervously, what wisdom would you like to know? I wish I understood, so please help this humble archangel understand why you would summon two heroes, one with magic and the other without, to a world with magic, my lady.
Rukana freezes. She's ruined. Her heart is crumbling.
She can't believe it. Is this the feeling of surreal that humans experience? In all of the eons. In all of the hundreds of summonings.
Yes, that. Of course. Ha ha ha, what do I say?
Accident aside, what happens to the heroes? Will they be returned? Will that world be scrapped?
What have I done?
You see, I was trying something out. An experiment of sorts. Success is not always found in the wisdom of order, but also within chaos. Sometimes a change of strategy is required to ensure a safe transition.
Oh God.
I'm making it worse. Please forgive me, Lady Order.
Lady Chaos.
I'll make it right first.
Please.
I see, my lady. That does make sense. If the enemy is prepared for the standard strategy, perhaps a seemingly illogical strategy will disorient them.
Yes. That. No. Are you nuts?
Even you know it's illogical. I've doomed them both. I've probably doomed that world.
What if they fight each other? What if they hate each other?
She says as coolly as she can, "Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I will be sure to explain my reasoning better in the future. Please continue your diligence, my loyal observers." "As you wish, my lady." With a flash of light, the observers vanish. Rukana stands frozen in shock and horror for a moment, wearing her horrified smile. "I need to find him. Fast." Daniel steps out of the prison carriage at Fort Peie, and he quickly understands where the name comes from. True, in his brain the name translates as peony, because of the pretty pink flowers that he's pretty sure are this world's equivalent, and what they're called in this world's primary language. However, he understands why this fort was named after a flower. Looks almost the entire fortress staff is women, wearing elegant armor that more like a video game's ceremonial monster hunting armor, rather than military steel like the guards who escorted him. A woman around 25 approaches, and the guards snap to attention, saluting with their fists low in front of them. It looks almost like a preparation for a low gut punch, but it's actually a show of subordination. In ancient times, commanders could and would decide on the spot and chop hands off, and present the hand in such a way that shows respect and acceptance of any praise or punishment. Unlike Earth, higher officers don't salute lower-ranking soldiers at all. She comes to a stop, and the sergeant reports, "Sergeant Woolstrin of the Kingdom of Mornisti, on orders of His Majesty, King Regent Rikudo of the Otherworld." The woman studies the group for a moment, looking up at Daniel, since, as usual, he's the tallest one around. Although, he can see manning the upper walls of the fort one of the bovine women, who tends to be larger than humans in all dimensions. She's probably one of the few who are taller than Daniel, even at his average height for Earth. Daniel bows, and Woolstrin hands over the scroll containing the letter from Rikudo, explaining, "The kingdom of Bromlund is in chaos with an sequential revolution, Lady Commander. We were originally destined for Fort Twilight, but it's inaccessible at this time. I made an executive decision for the transport to bring our escort here." The woman states as she unrolls it, "Commander Lewels Kos Morglodston, commanding officer of the Peony Battalion and Fort Peony." She reads the letter, which Daniel knows what it says. It briefly describes his banishment, but leaves a lot of details to the imagination. Since execution was ruled out, it's fair to assume what he did wasn't as bad as it sounds, especially since Rikudo threw in the process of saving the second princess's life. But he was banished, so what they do with him is ultimately up to the commander. However, she doesn't ignore the part about Bromlund. "Bromlund is going through a revolution, you say?"
Yes.
"The Empire has locked down the borders, and Bromlund's cities are in chaos. We only know what we've seen and heard from merchants."
I see.
"Lieutenant, make sure to prepare a speech for the fort and request additional manning from our closest allies. We'll send those we can home to try to recover their families." "Yes, Commander." One of the nearby officers jogs off. Lewels asks as she gives a narrow gaze to Daniel, "You're Daniel of the Otherworld?" "Yes, Lady Commander." "Care to elaborate further?" The letter reads, "True, Lady Commander.
I did what I did.
I make no excuses or pleas." She stares at him for a moment. After a moment, she calls out, "Scribe." Another young woman, around the same age, jogs up, providing a writing board and a prepared pen. "Here you are, Commander." The commander lays the scroll on it, signing the sheet. She blows on it briefly to dry the ink, and then rolls it back up. She binds it and uses a magic-powered stamp to seal it with a combination magic and wax-like seal, which can't be fooled or forged at all. She hands the scroll back to Woolstrin. "I accept custody of Daniel of the Otherworld." From the context of this letter, he is simply banished from the kingdom, so his exact location, as long as it's safe, shouldn't matter. "You made the right decision. If and when the situation in Bromlund stabilizes, we'll receive further instruction from King Regent Rikudo."
As you wish, Lady Commander.
"We hereby cede custody of Daniel of the Otherworld to your ward and service." She nods a little curtly, though her tone remains professional. "Rest your horses and men for the night. You may replenish supplies with the quartermaster, and dine with us in the dining hall tonight and tomorrow morning. Will that be sufficient?"
Plenty, Lady Commander.
"I humbly thank you."
Of course. She looks at Daniel.
"As for you?"
Daniel. Rank.
"I have none, Lady Commander."
Very well. Skills.
"I have skills that equate to a novice magic artificer, though I am devoid of magic." The navigator scoffs, and the commander's icy gaze falls to him. He tenses, but two things stuck out to her, the scoff and the last thing Daniel said. She asks the navigator first, "Was something funny about that?" Sergeant Woolstron quickly answers, "Forgive the disruption, Lady Commander." He was likely caught off guard by Mr. Daniel's humility.
Oh? Tell me the truth, then.
Daniel replies honestly, "For the last half a year or so, I served as assistant to Lady Magic Artisan Wenliana, during and after her retirement from the royal court."
Laywells cocks her head. Assistant to a court artisan?
"And you claim a novice level of artificer?" "Yes, well, many basic feats a true artificer or artisan could perform are beyond my reach, Lady Commander. I can repair magic devices, but I can't recharge or create magic crystals. Not without sufficient equipment and the assistance of an artisan." She ponders for a moment. "Is this because you are devoid of magic?" Daniel nods respectfully in confirmation, and she asks, "What does that mean?" "According to the analysis relic in our castle, it didn't respond at all. I have no affinities whatsoever, and no innate skills from the gods." This surprises her, and she looks at Woolstron. The sergeant states politely, "He speaks the truth, Lady Commander." "You are from another world, are you not, Daniel of the other world?"
I am.
"I know not why I was sent here in this state. The world I come from has no magic, and as far as I can tell, I am virtually unchanged from my state of being in my home world." One of the nearby officers murmurs, "No magic at all? How does that world function? Why would heroes be summoned from there in the first place?" asks another. Commander Laywells acknowledges them only by tilting her head, but she looks back at Daniel just as calmly. If the stories are to be believed, it should be impossible to arrive from another world without a blessing from the gods. "I don't profess to know their thinking." "Did they not speak to you?"
No. 1 minute, I was in my home.
The next, I was in the castle. Daniel decides not to emphasize that he's completely absent of magic.
It's not really important, unless... He sighs.
"Actually, I should make it clear, Lady Commander. When I say devoid of magic, I mean completely devoid. It has continued to be a mystery, but one of the effects of such a state is that no direct magic can take effect on me, including strengthening, protection, or healing magic. Should you determine I'm in need of such things, please don't waste them on me." Once more, she looks at Woolstron, who confirms what Daniel said. Attack magic can still hurt him though, burns, shocks, drowning. But nothing that directly utilizes the magic within a body to take action, it seems, Lady Commander.
How odd. Very odd, she sighs.
"I suppose it does not matter. This fortress is about the safest one can be, relatively speaking. We see minimal attacks, and have always succeeded in driving them off within the week. As you may have noticed, our staff does not include any men who are not eunuchs. If you wish to stay intact yourself, I suggest you stay out of the way. No one here needs rescuing. Do I make myself clear?" Daniel bows his head as he replies, "Perfectly, Lady Commander. What would you have me do?"
As I said.
"Stay out of the way. I'll inform responsible parties if any of our equipment breaks to have you look at it. If you can't prove useful in that regard, don't expect my hospitality to last long."
Understood. Very well. Sergeant.
You and your men should mind your own reputations as well. I have absolute authority over this base and everyone on it. I will not hesitate to defend it." The sergeant agrees politely, "Will do as you offered and leave in the morning." "Thank you, Lady Commander." "Then, I shall take my leave." She turns crisply and walks away, being joined by several of the other officers waiting on her. One of them murmurs, "No magic? How did they heal in their world? Can we really believe him?" Daniel can't hear any more of the conversation, and he turns to Woolstron. "I'm going to be murdered."
Woolstron scoffs.
"Why do you say that? Are you serious? It's a fortress full of women. I barely know how to survive cultural etiquette in our kingdom, let alone on a military base full of women."
The youngest guard scoffs.
"Yeah, must be real miserable. I feel for you." The navigator adds warmly, "Isn't this the torture you asked for, Daniel?"
"You're welcome."
The guards and Daniel chuckle, and Woolstron replies, "Best you can do is keep your head low. Don't know much about this place, or I'd have warned you. Sorry about that." The navigator teases, "Just convince them they need, what was it?
CRP. CPR.
And no, she specifically told me not to do that." Though he says that, Daniel knows that if the situation arises, he'll still offer. He imagines he's getting benign neglect from the commander solely because he saved a life, and he didn't try to improve his station or speak ill of royalty. That said, it's also clear she doesn't trust him.
"Here, Daniel."
He faces the sergeant, and Woolstrin gives Daniel a small pouch. Inside are a handful of coins. Since it seems you're not formally a prisoner, take it. It's not much, and I'll get reimbursed later. But, I'm betting that'll make it a little easier for you here. Daniel nods gratefully.
Thank you.
I'll try not to get killed. The navigator teases one last time, try not to get trimmed either. They all share a chuckle and shake hands, and Daniel makes his way into the base. He decides he'll try to find the least hostile looks from those he'll be serving with, and try to introduce himself. He'll need to figure out where he'll be allowed to sleep, after all. He's not holding his breath for anything comfortable. When Liana cracks open the anvil of another set of small diamonds, finding the gems inside as expected, 7 in total, based on the axes of pressure she was able to calculate for reliable growth, but ease of work. Without Daniel, it isn't as satisfying, but he would want their work to continue. The gems, once polished, make gloriously effective magic crystals, and for a fraction of the size. And selling the uncharged gems alone as diamonds to other territories has brought in immense amounts of capital for the Grand Duchy, conveniently during a time when they need capital and the kingdom is unable to tax them. When Liana is pretty sure her mother didn't scheme all of this just to make them rich, since there was no guarantee that when Liana alone could produce more diamonds, but these 7 are the third of such a 7-gem batch, and the first 14 have already brought in more than equal to what the estate already had. The diamonds, once cut, are crystal clear, almost scarily so, and they are the envy of noble ladies all over. Daniel also mentioned adding something he calls boron, which is found in a compound used in gold work. Just a drop, and the diamonds she's currently looking at are just as he promised, a deep shade of blue, like a deep ocean. When Liana sinks to her knees at her desk, trying to suppress the ache she suddenly feels. Her greatest triumphs thus far have been at the side of her first and truest friend. She sniffles as she fights but loses the battle against her tears. She doesn't know for how long or when she showed up, but an all too familiar voice states softly, "One lie." When Liana sniffles, quickly wiping her face with her sleeve and climbing to her feet. She hides her face as she regains her composure.
Mother. Perfect timing.
I just opened the latest diamonds. These ones are, she presents the small diamonds, trying to hide her face from her mother as she faces the Grand Duchess. Arameliana hesitates for a moment, but she doesn't press the issue. Instead, she takes the crystal and inspects it. Her face shifts in surprise, and she whispers, "Blue." When Liana confirms with a nod, sniffling. She turns away, blowing her nose quickly on her handkerchief.
Apologies, mother.
Take your time, murmurs the matron softly. When Liana recomposes herself, saying proudly, "Blue diamonds." According to Daniel, they existed naturally on Earth, but were about 10,000 times more rare than normal diamonds. I have no specific need for aesthetic diamonds, so please set the price as you see fit. I'll begin the next batch once the machine is cooled. Arameliana is silent for a long time. When Liana takes notice, and looks at her mother. She can't hide her pinkened cheeks or bloodshot eyes, but she knows Arameliana isn't cruel enough to scold her for her unseemly appearance in her own lab, hidden away as was requested of her oh so long ago. The Grand Duchess states softly, "When Liana, I had no idea what to do with the diamond you handed me that day, but I feel I should reveal something to you." When Liana murmurs, "I don't care about politics, mother. Please do as you see fit. Thank you for supporting my work, as always." "You're jumping to conclusions, child. Until he is back with you, I have intended to use every Valden these earned to conquer this entire continent, if I must."
Mother.
To say you'd go so far for. Arameliana silences When Liana by placing her finger to the latter's lips. When Liana is surprised. The Grand Duchess generally considers it rude to physically interrupt someone, and she's not big on physical contact from any of her daughters. Small gestures are usually reserved for when they're most needed. She whispers, "I could make us rich with this machine and your effort alone. That is so very obvious. However, something those foolish nobles and aristocrats are too blind to see is the greater gift Daniel was to this world. He claims his hobby was studying a little about a lot. With what little he knows, how far has he accelerated us?" Arameliana gingerly strokes the diamond with her thumb. She suddenly looks into When Liana's eyes. "Do you remember when your father burned that book that was falling apart on you?" When Liana scoffs, nodding.
Of course, mother.
"It was the only time I'd ever seen either of you strike each other, and you father no less." Arameliana says with a reverent smile. "Yes. He was quite shocked when I slapped him, wasn't he?" They both giggle together, and Arameliana continues. "Do you know why I did it?" When Liana shakes her head. "I'll admit, it wasn't because you were crying, though that definitely played a part. It was because it's a terrible sin, burning a book. It doesn't matter that it was some common, easy-to-replace book. That was not something I ever wanted you to believe was okay. In that book was a history, information of the past, and subsequently a foundation for the future. She looks at Wenliana again, saying seriously, Daniel and Rikudo's past is our future. To discard either of them is to waste advanced knowledge and wisdom we can scarcely imagine so that pathetic, ignorant aristocrats can wallow in contentment with their own short-sighted comfort, like insects happy with a drainage ditch. That is why I've never once tried to pressure you or use you for a political marriage. That is why I've always allowed you your curious and strange experiments, even when I could barely understand. That is why I'll go to war with the whole world, if it means bringing you back together with the one person that simultaneously inspires you and steals your breath away. Arameliana smiles warmly as Wenliana's cheeks begin to heat up, no doubt filling with color. And tears return to her eyes once more. She whimpers, "Mother," before throwing herself into a hug with the Grand Duchess. Arameliana pets Wenliana's back, cooing gently, "I love you, my dearest Wenliana." "I love you too, mother." Wenliana buries her face in her mother's chest, crying for a long time. She doesn't need to say it, since the Grand Duchess knew long before Wenliana could ever admit it.
I love him.
Tell me how I can help get him back." The Grand Duchess pets her eldest daughter's head gently. "Keep making these and leave the rest to me.
I'll handle it.
If I need anything else, you'll be the first to know." Wenliana sobs, nodding against her mother's chest. Arameliana does take one last matronly jab though. "I do have a condition. When we do bring him back, I expect not to wait too long for grandchildren."
Mother.
If he knows what's good for him, he'll oblige. He'd be a fool to refuse my greatest treasure. Wenliana snaps her gaze up to match that of the Grand Duchess in disbelief. Arameliana smiles tenderly, whispering, "I may not always understand you, and I know I never dote on you like your sisters, but I'm thankful that I so rarely need to." Wenliana breaks down once more, hugging the Grand Duchess for a long time. Eventually, her mother leaves her with the words, "Keep up the good work, Wenliana. If you need anything to make anything more efficient, I shall see it to you at once." Wenliana returns to the diamond machine with a new sense of purpose. It has long periods of simply letting it run, so getting it back up and running as quickly as possible is an obvious goal. And from there, she'll go through Daniel's notes and his strange device once more, trying to make sense of what she can. His device, which he called a phone, is in his language, and she can use language comprehension for a time. Like Rikudo, though, it's temporary, and she'd have to cast it each time to continuously be able to understand. However, if she can find anything else useful, she'll try to see if she can figure out how to make it. Daniel indeed gave her a great many gifts. Returning him to his rightful place is the most important thing right now.
Daniel.
Need something? The quartermaster asks bluntly as Daniel approaches. He hasn't introduced himself, but word spread quickly, so even those to whom he didn't get a chance to introduce himself seem to know him right away.
Good evening, quartermaster.
Pleased to meet you.
I'm Daniel.
Can I buy a blanket?
A blanket?
Did you buy one from the sergeant yesterday? Daniel sighs internally.
He did.
But he's trying to lay low. Clearly, he hasn't figured out the best way to go about things. It seems I misplaced it. I have the one Valden. The quartermaster stares at him, and she sighs. She states, "Wait here." She heads into the back of the storehouse for a moment, returning with a blanket. They exchange, and Daniel says politely, "Thank you. Try not to let it get misplaced." Daniel holds his tongue as well as he can, resisting a sigh of defeat. He replies with his best forced smile, "Of course.
Thank you for the advice."
He walks back to his usual camping spot. Thankfully, it's been fairly dry the last few days since he arrived, and the weather's been warm. That said, he's not sure what he's supposed to do at the fortress. Naturally, word of his banishment spread as well, and the focal point is the why of the banishment, not the why he wasn't executed. So, most of the women at the fort glare at him at best. He's helped with menial labor a few times, which generally grants him just the silent treatment, which is fine. He can work in solitude if it means unloading cargo or stacking weapons. In the morning, he folds the blanket and stores it in the storage cubby he was granted, which has his name on it. But it's simply a small shelf space in a public access area, and it's his only storage space. As such, he only stores one thing there. And he needs to make sure he makes it to the quartermaster before they close for the night. When there's not much to do, he goes beyond the fortress, with permission, to gather whatever he can find, be it herbs, specific stones for minerals, and anything else that he might find useful. So far, no one's needed him for any magical equipment. Beyond the fortress is actually nothing like what the words Demon Wildlands would inspire. It's actually a fairly luscious forest, full of animals and plants, similar to a rainforest, but not as humid. He manages to find a tree oozing sap, and he pages through the small field guide he copied. As far as he can tell, it falls in the non-toxic category, and he doesn't have a hell of a lot to lose. So, he dabs his finger in the viscous fluid, and he tastes it.
Sure enough, it's sweet.
He collects some in a jar, putting it in his simple shoulder bag. While he's not expecting much, as far as he knows, scouting reports with successful finds of usable resources can be rewarded by the quartermaster in the form of a small stipend, depending on what it is. And, as he scouts around, he finds a metallic glint. Upon investigation, he finds the rigging for a hidden trap, vines and wooden spikes placed to snare and or wound anyone investigating the glint without caution, which appears to be a knife. Daniel's somewhat far out, so it shouldn't be a hunting trap for the fort, but it could be. However, the fact that it's not baited with food, but with a weapon implies it might be for a scouting demon. Or worse, for someone just like Daniel. He makes a note of his location, taking as many notes about the spot as possible relative to other landmarks. He's not far from what could roughly be called a path. It could be a trap meant to catch scouts or a vanguard unit and sow disorder if the fortress sends an advance unit. Thankfully, he sees no signs of approach, so it's hard to say how long it has been armed. He's fairly confident he could disarm the trap, but he opts not to for now. He doubts the women at the fortress are foolish enough not to know about the traps, and it could easily be one of theirs. To disarm it without knowing could be a problem. As Daniel is returning to the fort, the portcullis is still up, meaning he made it back in time for curfew. In spite of that, as he approaches the gate, the watchstander opens the slot and asks, "Who goes there?" Daniel replies politely, "Daniel of the Otherworld, returning from free scouting and collecting." Daniel knows how it's going to go. It's not the first time now. On Earth, Daniel had a small philosophy when he was driving. He was terrible about looking at license plates on cars because he was always worried he might be tempted when someone cut him off in traffic if he paid any attention to their license plate and tried to escalate the issue for something so insignificant. Likewise, he doesn't make a point of learning the names of the women at the fort right now. If he's questioned, he has no interest in getting on anyone's bad side. He has no idea who knows who are sisters with whom, and whether or not camaraderie between soldiers outweighs the word of a complete outsider. "I'm not seeing your name in the log, Daniel of the Otherworld. Did you have permission to go off base?" Her attitude is snarky and condescending. Daniel replies, "I left shortly after first bell. Headed southwest, intent to return same day." She reads the log, humming again. "Sorry. I can't read this log entry. I'll send for someone to check with the morning watch. Denied entry." She closes the slot, and Daniel sighs. He walks to a nearby stone and takes a seat. He sketches idly in the dirt with a stick to pass the time, but he knows what's going to happen. As the 12th bell chimes in the base, indicating the last hour of the 12-hour workday, Daniel approaches the gate, knocking before they close the portcullis. The slot pops open, and it's the night watchstander this time. That was final bell. Curfew is a quarter hour before final bell. Daniel sighs. "My apologies. Daniel from the Otherworld returning. I won't. I'm sorry. Curfew is curfew. Clear the gate." Daniel hesitates for a moment, pondering refusing. But either way, he's looking at either being attacked or killed. He backs away from the gate, and the slot closes. The orders are given to lower the portcullis, and it rumbles lower. A few of the guards above snicker, not as hidden by the portcullis noise as they might have thought. Daniel sighs and finds a spot to sit against the wall of the fortress, getting comfortable for the night as the sun's last rays sink out of sight. The noises around him are familiar to him. Birds, insect-like creatures, some kind of mammal or reptile crying its social or mating call. He's able to get used to the natural sounds and drift to sleep. Sometime in the night, Daniel is awakened by a small stick hitting him. He looks, finding one of the guards at the man door that bypasses the gate and portcullis. She nods him over, "Come on." Daniel shakes his head. "Thank you, but I can't. I'm saying it's fine. Just go before I change my mind." "Please do. I'm not breaking in. Thank you for your consideration." He puts his head back down on his knees and arms, keeping his profile small and warm. He can hear her sigh in disgust and walk back inside. What he doesn't hear is the latch. He peeks, and the door is still cracked open. Daniel's not an idiot. Violating procedure on a military base, especially during wartime, is a great way to get in trouble. This world takes it just as or more seriously as Earth. He climbs to his feet and walks towards the door. One of the guards up top challenges him. Hey! Who goes there? Daniel from the other world. He takes the handle of the door and pulls it closed, hearing the spring-loaded latch click into place, barring the door. He walks back to his spot and sits back down. The first bell of the morning is what awakens him again, and he listens to the portcullis rise. He approaches the gate and knocks, and the slot opens. Who goes there? Daniel of the other world. Returning from. Were you out there all night? The guard, the same morning guard that he passed on the way out, peeks to the side to try to see where he came from.
I was. Missed curfew again?
You can't keep doing that.
Understood.
May I return, please? She sighs a little.
Yeah, of course.
Be more careful next time, all right?
I will.
She opens the gate, allowing him to pass and logging his return. Daniel walks wearily by, murmuring, "Thank you." She nods as she watches him walk slowly. She closes the door and shakes her head quietly, returning to her watch-standing duties. Daniel turns in the tree sap and his notes to the quartermaster, and she remarks, "You didn't come by last night. Managed to keep hold of your blanket, Daniel."
I don't know.
I was distracted. Distracted? Didn't you sleep?
A little.
I should go check in with the dining hall. Please excuse me.
All right.
I'll be here. Daniel finds a scolding for being missing all morning, which he couldn't help, but he doesn't make excuses. He admits he was stuck beyond the gate. It takes a few rounds of back and forth, but his supervisor finally gives up and tells him what to retrieve for the day. He follows the instructions to kill time. As he works, Daniel is always listening. Few of the women on base speak to him at all, and in the dining hall, they ignore him for the most part. But he overhears things. Apparently, the hot water and the air conditioning magic units haven't been working for the barracks for a long time, long before he arrived. The base is too far out of the way to get an artificer to come and repair them, and they've already tried replacing the crystals themselves. He knows it won't earn him brownie points, but it is the job for which he's supposed to be useful. He'll just have to wait for night to fall once more. Fort Peie is a moderately sized valley fortress barring the only known path through the mountains at the north end of the mountains separating the allied kingdoms and empire from the demon wildlands, with whom they are at war. It's so far out of the way and difficult to traverse, very few attacks take place. And in order to provide a more ceremonial fortress to man, it's relatively robust and secure. Many lesser noble women and daughters have chosen it, and all but given it a reputation, as a sort of women-only base on the edge of the frontier. It's not strictly women-only, but when choosing manning, the commanding officers have been held to the tradition, as the main base at the other end of the valley is meant to receive warning and prepare if Fort Peie is going to be overrun. As night falls, Daniel yawns and makes his way towards the back of the barracks building. Most of the women have already turned in, excluding watchstanders, so it's the least populated the base is, as far as people walking around. Daniel's personal storage cubby, which had only his blanket before he was locked outside of the base for the night, is of course empty, so he's not going to sleep particularly well this evening. Instead, he decided to wear himself out and keep himself distracted with more work. He requested permission already to use the smithy in the night, since it'll keep him out of the way, and he was even willing to begin heating up any equipment in the early morning, but the blacksmiths refused. That said, he's got a different project in mind for the moment. He inspects the control unit of the barracks building's central air. It consists of a heating crystal, a cooling crystal, a wind crystal, and a mana crystal. And from the gossip he's overheard, rather, the regular grumbling about it the crystals were already replaced, meaning it's anything other than the one thing Daniel definitely can't fix. He carefully and quietly disassembles the control unit, which houses the mana crystal and the mana delivery conductors, which are some kind of metal tubing. They don't contain anything inside, but mana travels best in tubing for reasons Daniel has not yet learned. And while it is fairly flexible, it also has a fatal flaw. It's easy to dislodge, especially from the internal connection. Sure enough, Daniel can see the tubing where it's dislodged. He pulls the pliers he borrowed from the smithy, and he places the connection back into its socket, gripping down to close the clamps. He then uses metal wire to tightly bind the connections of both ends of the circuit for each of the connections leading the main mana connection and the various control switches. This way, even if it's dislodged by being hit during a battle, it should still stay connected and work. Thankfully, it's not the first such central air Daniel has worked on. When Liana had him look at the Stahlvolten Estate's central air unit, and they have a handy panel on the outlet that changes colors with temperature, and this one even has a target temperature etched into the surface, likely once everyone found a comfortable zone. Daniel adjusts the controls until the panel matches the gradient desired, and he leaves it run. They'll be able to adjust it the next day when they realize it. If they realize it. Next is the bathhouse. He has to be extra careful with the communal wash area, as it's a shared space, and men's bath is right around this time. He makes his way in, checking the log. Sure enough, it's occupied. It's about a 1-hour window that the men can take their baths using water scooped from the water heater, which is outputting heat, but not very much. Daniel enters with his equipment still with him, and he gets dirty looks from the 2 men that are present. Daniel remarks quietly, "Don't mind me. I'll only be a minute." He uses a wash basin to wash off his arms, and then he reaches in, finding the heating elements. They're warm, but definitely not hot. While he's worried the mana crystal isn't conducting well, he'll look at that last. More than likely, the protective heat caps that protect the gem housings are coated in buildup. Thankfully, the Earthling mechanic has plenty of practice, having set up both inline and basin crystal-powered heating units in the castle of Mornisti and the capital itself. He doesn't have the manufacturing capacity to change the basin one the fort uses to an inline unit, since he doesn't have the means to make pumps, but he can at least repair this one. Daniel pulls the first crystal's outer protector off, inspecting the cover. Indeed, it is quite dirty, and he uses a rag to clean it off, scraping off some buildup carefully.
He peeks down inside.
The glow of the heat crystal is pretty dim, so something is definitely affecting the mana conductivity as well. Daniel replaces the cap and does the same for the second and third ones. One of the guys approaches, asking, "What are you doing?"
Just cleaning.
"Trying to keep myself busy." Daniel replaces the last one, and he smiles at the man. With a nod, Daniel makes his way outside and around to the backside of the heating basin, where he can access the controls and crystals from. He tightens the fittings holding the mana conduction tubing on both ends and checks the temperature adjustment slider. It turns out to be the slider. At some point, the users of the bathhouse, impossible to know who or when, tried to turn it up more and more, even as it reached maximum. Daniel has to return to the smithy briefly for some scrap metal to form into parts, but he's able to find what he needs, and with a few splinters of metal, he's able to make the slider functional again. Within a few moments, he can feel the heat being generated from the crystals radiating through the back of the unit. He adjusts it down to around 75%, which is still hot, but shouldn't boil the water. He walks back inside, inspecting the water temperature. It's the tail end of the hour he can use, but it's enough time for him to feel heat coming from the water, and he dips his hand inside briefly. It's a pretty good temperature, and he makes his way out. Between both tasks, it's gotten pretty late, so Daniel makes his way back to the smithy. He's still got a few hours before he's going to try to sleep, so he begins inspecting scrap metal and ruined swords, materials he's allowed to use, since they won't make very good quality swords or armor, but serve the purpose if need be. Daniel's goal is the one thing he's wanted since coming to the base. He begins making a male mold from wood, a tube with locking pegs on the bottom end. He forms the female mold with clay and sand, and then begins melting the metal scraps in a ladle. It takes a while, but he's able to get enough prepared to pour before morning. He's thankful his body is younger, as his actual age made it rough to pull all-nighters. Now he's feeling the tug at his eyelids, but because he's on task, he's able to keep forging ahead. Once it's cast, Daniel tucks the metal tube out of the way. It won't appear to have an apparent purpose to anyone else, so they shouldn't have a need to take it. The only real risk is that it'll get used as scrap again, but Daniel doesn't care. He's using it to kill time. He makes his way outside, and he can tell by the moon that it's about 4 hours to dawn. He heads to the back of the dining hall, finding a warm spot against the wall, where the heat in the stone of the oven is still present. He manages to get a nap before breakfast starts, and he drags himself in to help in the dining hall. He retrieves supplies and washes dishes and cooking tools. He returns to the dining hall with a crate of ingredients from the storehouse, walking in to yes. I noticed it too. I had to use my blanket.
I was cold.
Daniel twitches, but ignores the subtle jab. However, it quickly leaves his mind when one of the other soldiers replies, "Me too. Did someone fix the air?" They must have, but who? Who was watching the guardhouse this morning? Did an artificer arrive? Daniel returns to the back, losing the rest of the conversation. He didn't say anything, and he has no need to take credit. He mostly did it to keep himself distracted, and he heard about a problem that he might be, and ended up being, able to fix. With them repaired, maybe the overall morale will improve, maybe it won't. He can operate in solitude, and it's temperate enough for now that sleeping outside hasn't caused him too much trouble. He's not looking forward to the rain, but he'll worry about that when he has to. Daniel stocks up the kitchen for lunch after breakfast is done, and he collects his rations and makes his way to the well. It has a manual pump already, cloned from his first one in the castle town, he assumes. It has the exact same design, and it works the same way. He and Wenliana hadn't perfected the automatic pumps yet, but soon enough, they'll likely replace the equipment on military bases at the end of the world. He refills his leather water skin. I'm kinda surprised you know how to use that. No one has showed you, have they? Daniel looks. It's the morning watchstander that let him in. He replies, I saw enough people use it. Here to refill. She nods civilly, and he steps aside to operate the pump for her.
Oh. Thanks.
She steps up, holding her own water skin under the pump, and he cycles the pump for her. As the water pours in, she asks, So, is it true? Is what true? What they say you did. Did you really tear the clothes off of a princess?
Daniel chuckles. Yeah.
That's the truth. And you're still alive? I've been told the undead can't talk. She cocks her head, and she suddenly realizes what he's saying. She scoffs and retorts, All right, mister. Good comeback, I guess. The water reaches the top, and Daniel stops. She puts the cap on, but before she leaves, she asks, So, why'd you do it? I had to. You had to? Daniel nods to answer her. Please excuse me. Lunch is about to begin, and I have responsibilities. Daniel walks away, and she watches him for a moment. Hey, Daniel. Daniel pauses to look at her, and he replies, I'd rather not say any more about it right now. Not that. I never introduced myself. My name is Gwenesphia. Lieutenant Gwenesphia, if we're in proper company. She removes her helmet, revealing a pair of flickering cat ears at the top of her head. She smiles softly. Daniel bows his head politely. Lieutenant Gwenesphia, the pleasure is mine. I'm just Daniel. No family name or rank. She smiles and repeats his name. Daniel. Please continue to treat me well. Daniel gives a professional nod, and he heads for the dining hall once more. Commander? Can I talk to you? Commander Laywells doesn't look up from her report as she writes, replying with her usual stoic tone, Enter. The door opens, and one of the night watchstanders walks in, Tria, a Gatanine woman with emerald green eyes. She walks in and salutes, stating, Commander, Sergeant Tria. I wanted to report odd behavior last night. Laywell sighs and puts her pen down. Daniel. Tria confirms. Yes, Commander. I saw him skulking around late into the night last night. With an exasperated nod, Laywells remarks, This is the third report I've received. Did he seem to be interested in anything? Yes. He approached the barracks and seemed to be scoping out the layout. It made me uncomfortable, but I couldn't prove he was doing anything. The commander pages through a logbook briefly. I understand he spent the night outside of the fort the other night. That was because he missed curfew, Commander. Indeed. Perhaps he was hoping to seek retaliation. Fortunately, your room is on the upper floor, is it not? Tria replies, It is, Commander. But, shouldn't we take precautions? You know better than any of us what he was sent here for. This fortress is the flower garden for a reason. Do you think you'd be unable to kill him if he were to attack you? Tria recoils a little. I don't know. He's a divine summon, isn't he? He could have an untold amount of magical power. Laywells nods in agreement with her point. Indeed, that's true. Has he impeded operations of the fort? And not to my knowledge. Very well. Has he made any threats? No, Commander. He barely speaks at all to anyone. He could be plotting anything. I see. Laywell sits back in her chair, placing her cheek on her fist with her elbow on the armrest. Do you know what he told me when I asked him about his banishment? I wouldn't know, Commander. He told me the report was accurate. He made no denials or excuses. Forgive me, Commander, I fail to see how that relates to the threat he poses for the entirety of this base. He's giving up. The reason he's not retaliating on any of you is because his spirit's breaking. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Commander. I see. Well then, I'll consider actions to take for ensuring Daniel poses no threat. You may go. Thank you for hearing me out, Commander. Tria bows and turns on her heel, walking out. Laywells looks out of her window, where Daniel is finishing chores for the dining hall during dinner. What is going through your head, Daniel? They didn't execute you for a reason.
What was it?
Another knock comes at the door.
Enter.
She keeps watching out of the window as the door opens and closes. Commander, Quartermaster Lieutenant Verbeen.
What is it?
Daniel skulking around at night.
Oh. No, Commander.
I actually wanted to ask about the barracks. Curious, Laywells turns around.
The barracks?
Is something wrong?
The opposite.
Did we receive a magic artificer recently?
No. Why?
Laywells decides to hear out the explanation first before she makes an assumption.
That's strange. Pardon me, Commander.
Those of us that stay in the barracks have all noticed. The central air is working again. I was curious if an artificer came to repair it finally. Is that a fact?
Yes, Commander.
The vents are blowing air once more, and many of us found ourselves cold in the night, but only because it's been so hot recently.
I see.
Is it possible it began working again on its own? The commander knows what happened. The barracks' central air has been awaiting repairs for a little over a year. Laywells has a room in the barracks, but often sleeps in her office because she can open her balcony doors and let air in.
I wouldn't think so, Commander.
Not after a year. Maybe it was someone on night shift. If I learn who it was, would you like me to report it?
Please do.
I believe this person deserves thanks. Is there a particular reason you need an artificer? We've survived without these last few weeks, Commander, so I won't add to our troubles, but our potion storage box is no longer cooling as it should be. If we fall under siege, we may not be able to make and store potions ahead of demand. That sounds like a rather urgent problem. The ingredients are okay as long as we keep them dry and the appropriate plants tended, Commander. But if we need long-term potion storage, we will definitely be at a disadvantage.
Noted.
Let me know if the problem is resolved. I'll put in another request for repairs.
Verbeen bows. Thank you, Commander.
I'll take my leave then. Laywells acknowledges her with a nod. She waits for Verbeen to leave, and she peeks out of her window for a moment. Daniel is alone in his usual spot, where he sits out of the way and watches the goings-on. He has a small notebook that he made himself, and he's studying it. Let's see where this mystery leads. She finishes her report and signs it, walking it to her secretary. See this sent out before tomorrow, if possible. And, please draft a repair request for the Quartermaster's potion storage cooling unit. I'll review and sign it later. Her secretary replies warmly, as you wish, Commander. I'm going to tour the yard. If you need me, I'll be in the main courtyard.
Of course, Commander.
Shall I ring your escorts and ments? That won't be necessary. Just a leisure tour for myself.
Yes, Commander.
I'll be here if you need anything.
Thank you.
Laywells makes her way to where Daniel is sitting, approaching him from the side. She gets within a few steps of him, stating, if you were on watch, you'd be an easy target. Daniel replies, if I was on watch, I'd obey the orders of a sentry, Commander. He stands up and faces her, saluting as he's seen others do. His posture is actually surprisingly good, as if he's been a soldier in this world his whole adult life.
At ease.
Orders of a sentry, you say? Daniel nods respectfully.
Apologies.
It's from my old world. We had 11 general orders that we were meant to memorize and which detail how to respond to situations while standing watch. You were a soldier in your old world? A military sailor, actually, Commander. And even then, my specific job on the ship is a little hard to explain.
Please try.
You've got me curious now.
Very well. He looks around, nodding.
If you can, imagine please a metal ship larger than the length of this fortress, and about as wide as two of the barracks buildings together. Its height was probably 3 times the watchtower?
Maybe 2. It's been a while.
On this ship, I ran the powerhouse. For simplicity, it's the closest thing we had to magic crystals, and it was enough power to move this ship through the water without sails. You've said a lot of things I don't understand.
A metal ship?
That large, no less.
Apologies, Commander.
There's not much to relate it to in this world to make it easier.
But my job was,
I guess, kind of like a scribe, but also constantly controlling the non-magic magic crystal we used. Our enemies were comparable to ourselves, so it's not a fair comparison, but just the one ship I served on could conquer this entire continent alone. Dragons and all, I suspect. The commander understandably stares at him in disbelief. He's not lying. His words ring truthful, and her special God-given ability when she was born is actually to detect lies and other deceptions magically. True, Daniel claims magic doesn't work on him, so it could be that, but his words have no sounds of fiction to them, only a struggle to relate it to her well enough for her to picture. It's a strange feeling being bewildered in this way. Daniel adds, as for the orders of a sentry, while it wasn't my specific job most of the time, it was still expected for us as basic training, because even if I wasn't a fighter myself, I might need to pick up a weapon and defend my ship, my base, and my homeland. Even if I'd be terrible at it. That part she understands, and she smiles and nods.
I see.
I'm curious about these orders. What were they?
I
can do my best to write them down, if that's all right, Commander. On the spot like this, and as long as it's been, I'll misquote them, I'm sure.
Very well.
I look forward to seeing what your world views as the duties of a sentry. Daniel replies politely, as you wish, Commander. Is there anything else I can do for you in the meantime? Actually, there's one other thing.
She hands him a key.
The quartermaster storehouse is locked 1 hour after last bell, as I suspect you recall. It is completely unmanned after men's bathing hour.
Commander?
Why are you telling me this?
What's this key? Call it a
curiosity. I want to test a theory. I have heard recently that the cooling unit for potion storage in the storehouse has failed to operate for several weeks, preventing the storage of potions. In peace times, this isn't a crisis, but if we were to fall under attack, she smiles cryptically at him. I don't understand. He averts his eyes for a moment, and he asks softly, couldn't you give me permission to go in during the day? I could, but that wouldn't sate my curiosity. Do you mean the barracks and the bathhouse, Commander?
She smiles coyly. Oh?
So you've heard what happened. Daniel looks away for a moment. I don't want to be accused of brown-nosing, Commander. Accused of currying favor by shortcuts, that is. That's just not something I can do. Her smile softens a little, but she's still a little smug. Then, it would seem after men's bath is the appropriate time. Daniel hesitates, but he nods in agreement. I can't promise anything. I'll take a look tonight, Commander. May I report to you in the morning after breakfast? She smiles and nods professionally. She turns away, adding over her shoulder, oh, and please do a better job of not being seen skulking around at night, Daniel. Most of us are women here. We love to gossip. Daniel stands silently for a moment, but he finally replies, you understood, Commander. She makes her way to a few other places to actually perform a tour, and then returns to her office. Now, she just has to sit and await results. Tria watches from her perch on the wildland wall. She's not on watch this particular night, but her friends are fellow night watchstanders, so it's only natural she'd hang out with them while staking out her quarry. Drestica approaches. You've been up here all evening. What are you watching?
Daniel.
He's always up to something, and tonight, I'm going to find out what.
Daniel?
Disgusting that the commander lets him walk around freely. I've wondered why no one follows him beyond the gates and encourages him not to come back. I know why I don't. The commander would know immediately. Easier to try to get him kicked out, or to do it himself. Yeah, that's fair. The two watch idly towards the courtyard for a moment. Drestica pats Tria's shoulder, saying, well, good luck.
If you need help, call out. We'll tear him apart.
Divine summon or not. Tria confirms with a nod.
She perks up. He's on the move.
I'll be back. She quickly makes her way down to the ground, staying out of sight as she follows him. Daniel makes his way down into the smithy, which is typical. She listens for the sounds of hammers, but he doesn't start working. Instead, he returns shortly after descending into the smithy pit, and he heads next for the quartermaster's storehouse. There, the quartermaster has everything from potion ingredients and magic crystals, to blankets and clothes. Could he be planning to steal what he needs?
Is he going to run?
Oh, I got you now, Daniel. She follows a fair distance, observing from the shadows. Her Gatanine eyes can see perfectly in the dark. However, he simply studies the door for a moment, and then makes his way back to the smithy. He descends back into the pit. This time, he's gone for a long time. Still, she doesn't hear the hammer, so she waits for him to leave. It's the only exit from the smithy, so she can't miss him. The minutes tick by slowly, and boredom threatens to set in. She's a watchstander, so she's used to it. But, he still doesn't begin hammering. What is he doing down there?
Should I go check?
He can't get out any other way, can he? After a little longer, Tria decides that she should check. It's always possible he keeled over down there, which would be a big relief, and she wants the satisfaction of seeing it. She decides to act casual, like she has a reason to enter the smithy. She walks down in, saying as she does, "Oh Daniel, fancy meeting." She looks around. He's nowhere in sight. The smithy is a good size, but there's not that much space, especially not to hide in. She checks what few nooks and crannies there are, but there's no sign of him. Just then, she spots the window. She wouldn't want to climb through it, and she's probably half his size. Regardless, it's definitely possible, but it's high up compared to the floor, and not an easy climb.
He wouldn't, would he?
But wouldn't that mean he knows I'm watching? Tria dashes back outside, looking around frantically. Still, he's nowhere in sight. She hears a metallic click from the direction of the quartermaster storehouse, and she sprints there. She whispers sharply through the door, "Daniel. Daniel, I know you're in there.
Come out at once.
I won't have you executed for stealing. Do you hear me?" She honestly hopes he doesn't respond.
Daniel. Come out at once.
I'm going to call the guards. I'm warning you. She listens for a long time.
Nothing. He must be hiding.
It's not going to work. If you don't come out, I'm going to. Can I help you with something? Tria jumps nearly 6 feet in the air as she throws herself away from the source of the male voice, the same voice belonging to the person she wholly believed was inside, but instead was behind and to her right. She yelps, and she can feel the tingle in her tail. It's puffed up as wide as it can go. Daniel states uneasily, "Apologies. I didn't mean to startle you. Is something going on in the storehouse?" She stammers, pointing at the door, and then at Daniel, who she was certain until just now that he had managed to slip past her and get inside. She dissolves into anger, and she snarls in a low voice, "I don't know how you did it, but I know you broke in. And when they do inventory in the morning, I'm telling them it was you. The other watchstanders saw me the whole time, but not you. So, do you want to confess?" "I'd rather not confess to anything I didn't do. I know you weren't in the smithy.
You can't fool me.
Just you wait." Tria storms off, leaving Daniel looking a little confused. Laywells finds a curious sight as she's walking to her office early in the morning. She slept in her own room for once, and she feels more refreshed than usual. As the rumors have said, the central air is working wonderfully in the barracks once more, making it comfortable to sleep in and relax in. However, seated outside of her office door on the floor near the secretary's desk is the otherworlder known as Daniel. He stands up, saluting.
"Commander. I have to apologize." "Apologize? Whatever for?"
"I failed a part of what I was doing last night. When I realized I was being observed, it was too late."
She looks around.
With a sigh, she says, "Come in." She unlocks her office and enters, allowing Daniel to pass through. She closes the door and states softly as she straightens her uniform more, elaborate.
"What happened?"
Daniel recounts the story. "One of the watchstanders caught me when I first approached. I moved back to the smithy and used the window to escape her line of sight and enter the storehouse. But she almost caught me as I was leaving the storehouse. She's fairly certain I was inside." Laywells cocks her head. "Did she see you enter or exit the storehouse?"
"No, Commander.
But as I said, she's confident, given the circumstances. I wanted you to hear of my failure first. I guess that means you were unable to repair the cooler, then, huh?" She takes a seat, straightening the contents of her desk in preparation to begin her work.
"No. It's fixed, Commander."
The mana crystal was seated incorrectly.
"I see.
That's unfo dash. What did you say?"
"It's fixed, Commander."
Thankfully, seating the mana crystal was easy, and I was able to slip past the watchstander again. Laywell stares at him in disbelief.
"You fixed it."
Daniel confirms politely. "Yes, Commander." "It was just one of the crystals?"
"Yes, ma'am."
"I had to adjust the seat a little, but it was quick enough. I wanted you to hear of my mistakes before you heard it from anyone else. I believe I will be accused of stealing." Laywell sighs. "Did you take anything?"
"No, Commander."
"I encourage a full inventory. Here is your key." He returns the key, and she stares at it for a moment.
She scoffs.
"I can't believe you fixed it while dodging a watchstander."
"Who was it?"
"I don't know, Commander." "Why would you cover for someone hostile to you?" "I don't believe she's trying to kill me. I believe she thinks I'm a threat. She was doing what she thought was right." "You could do better to stand up for yourself, Daniel."
Daniel smiles.
"I'd rather tiptoe through a minefield, Commander." I'm not a foolhardy or particularly courageous sort. She chuckles, but sighs after a moment.
All right.
Well, thank you for making the repairs. I'll check with the quartermaster for the inventory. Are you sure nothing was taken?
Daniel hesitates.
He replies quietly, I can only say I didn't take anything. I can't predict the outcome of the inventory, Commander.
She frowns.
Well, at least you aren't actually oblivious to how much some of the soldiers here dislike you. I'm trying to keep my head down and out of the way, Commander. I suspect my reputation is unforgivable. Have you tried explaining?
No. Why?
I'd rather not say. You're not giving me a lot of room to help you, Daniel, or incentivizing me to do so.
That's fine, Commander.
Permission to carry on. She frowns at him again, staring at him in silence for a moment. She replies a little coldly, for now. You're late for your station, aren't you? I informed my supervisor, Commander. I'll take my leave and return to my station.
Excuse me.
He bows and leaves the room, heading for the dining hall once more. Laywells looks out her window towards the storehouse. Sure enough, exactly who she suspected is there speaking passionately, by the gestures with Verbene. The commander sighs.
You're not a bad person, Daniel.
Why hide behind such a strange accusation? I'm telling you, Sergeant, I did inventory twice, as always. Nothing was out of place. How can that be? I know he broke in here last night. I don't know what to tell you. Inventory is exactly the same as it was when we closed up shop last night. Then, he must have done something. Tria, the Gatanine night watchstander, insists passionately. It's clear she saw Daniel doing something in the vicinity of the storehouse, but there's no evidence anything was touched. We don't have any signs of contaminating anything, and nothing was even moved. Gwenesphia, the morning lieutenant about to go on watch, approaches for her watch station's rations. What's going on here? Verbene replies, this one here believes Daniel broke into the storehouse last night.
What?
Why would he do that? Verbene answers, well, I can say with certainty he didn't steal anything. And he always seems to need a blanket. Tria retorts, I saw him break last night.
You did? Asks Gwenesphia.
Did you not raise the alarm? Tria flinches. I didn't actually see him enter, but
I knew he did.
He was sneaking around, and I saw him studying the door. Sergeant, accusing Daniel without actually testifying it isn't helping anything. I know what I saw, Lieutenant. Why would you defend him? He's scheming something at night. This looks like a heated conversation. All three of them snap to attention and salute the commander as she approaches. Is there a problem? Verbene catches her up on the conversation so far.
I see.
Gwenesphia states, Daniel doesn't seem like the type to do that, though, Commander. He's quiet and keeps to himself, and he seems rather polite. Do you have evidence of this, Gwenesphia?
I don't. No, Commander.
Oh, other than any time I've interacted with him, he's quiet and polite. Tria states, he's hiding something. We need to be careful. We should be wary of traitors, spies, and enemies in all forms. We should not treat our allies as such without cause. She looks specifically at Tria, who flinches. However, the commander states without changing the target of her gaze, Quartermaster, I'd like you to verify the cooling unit is broken before I send off the repair request. Surprised, Verbene hesitates. Laywells looks at her, and she flinches this time.
Oh, of course, Commander.
But it's been out of service for a few weeks now, as I mentioned yesterday. With a nod, Laywells instructs, show me. The four walk into the back of the shop, and Verbene opens the door of the trunk-sized box with a cooling crystal powering it. She puts her hand inside, explaining, it should be cold enough too. She flinches, staring at the device. Laywells walks forward, placing her hand inside.
I don't understand.
It feels quite cold to my hand. Should it be colder?
No.
It wasn't working yesterday. Commander.
Are you certain?
The commander makes a point to look at Tria. Is it possible the issue could have corrected itself? And no, Verbene suddenly gasps.
Daniel.
This surprises the other two, and Tria quickly says, wait. You're trying to imply Daniel fixed that thing? It's a magic device. Gwenesphia murmurs, wouldn't that mean he has to have magic then? Laywells walks past them, saying dismissively, I'm a military commander, not a magic artificer. I just thought it might be odd that one of you claims someone broke in here, and another claims a broken device is now working again. But what do I know? She walks to the door, stating, "If anyone needs me, I think I'll be taking a bath."
A nice hot bath.
All three of the others gasp in shock together. Gwenesphia squeaks, "Teach then, does that mean the barracks?" Laywell smirks over her shoulder, and Tria quickly snaps, "Hang on, Commander. That's absurd. Pardon my saying so, but if he is the one who did it, then how does no one?" She trails off. She shakes her head, asking sharply, "Why wouldn't he tell anyone? Why would he act so suspiciously if that's all he was doing?" Why indeed? With that, the commander leaves the storehouse, and the others glance at each other, deep in thought. It's Daniel's day off once more, and as usual, he is on a free scout beyond the fortress. With permission, anyone on base can go off base to search for collectible items. It's a little odd to Daniel, since he could be meeting up with the enemy. However, it seems the actual recon unit stays much further out, and they keep tabs on the enemies. What Daniel is allowed to do is find curiosities in the area. The trap he found ended up being one set by the recon teams, since metal glints mean kingdom soldiers, and as such, can attract lower intelligence demon soldiers. Daniel uses his notebook to continue learning the plants of the area. He doesn't have everything written down, but he can identify useful plants and toxic ones, at least with a fair amount of accuracy. Not that he's putting everything he finds into his mouth, of course, but there are a few different kinds of berries and other fruit-bearing plants that are edible. Most aren't very lucrative to turn in, but they are a nice addition to meals and snacks. As Daniel is walking, though, he finds a rather steep hill overlooking a sheer drop, over which Daniel can't see from his distance created by the hill. He murmurs to himself, "Must be where the river flows into the mountains. Better keep my distance." He hears a twig snap somewhere behind him, and he sighs. Of course I jinxed myself. He whirls, looking for whatever's stalking him. He's hit before he can see it though, and he coughs. His stomach floats as it sinks in, and he grits his teeth. He wants to shout curses, but he braces for the first of many impacts. He slides on his back down the steep hill, quickly being swallowed by tumbling dirt and leaves knocked loose by his fall, and he is unable to see what hit him. Daniel tries to turn himself around with his hands, and he can feel the terrain tearing away at his skin and clothes. Suddenly, he feels himself drop once more. He's gone over the cliff. Daniel feels his breath give way, again preventing him from fully screaming or cursing. Instead, he can only grunt and wince in pain as he tries to gain his bearings. He tries to collect a breath, but it's just as quickly snatched away from him as he slams the water that was below him. He can feel his mind blank out, and what little sense he has fears he's going to black out. However, light fills his eyes once more, and his lungs are on fire. The wind was knocked out of him, but he's alive, and as far as he can tell, he can move. He must have hit a deep enough portion of the river. Though his entire body is in pain now, so it's hard to say. Regardless, he quickly aligns his feet with the river bottom, finding whatever footing he can so he can kick upwards. He kicks his feet continuously, reaching for the surface with his lungs demanding he inhale. He gasps in a breath as soon as his face breaches the water, and he coughs on what droplets of water manage to follow his life-saving breath. He treads water for a moment as he catches his breath, looking around with a dazed fog still clouding his mind. But he's able to tell he's in the bottom of the valley from the upper mountain near Fort Peie. The river is moving at a moderate pace, so he's covering a lot of ground beyond his control. Additionally, the water is rather cold. He'll have to find a way out and navigate back to the fortress. Or, he could just ride the river.
No, wait.
That's definitely not an option. Didn't we pass a waterfall? I gotta get out. Daniel keeps his head above water, swimming as well as he can through the current towards the south side of the river, the side that the fort will be on. The present walls of the cliffs are too steep for him to even exit the water right now, but being closer to shore will be imperative once he has the option to climb out. He follows the wall of the river valley, listening for signs of rapids or the impending waterfall. This isn't what I meant when I said I wanted to see the waterfall better. He knows there's a shoreline near the waterfall, but he prays to himself that he can exit the water long before that. If he messes up, he's probably not going to have any more chances. Gwenesphia stops by the afternoon watchstander station as curfew is getting closer. Daniel had already gone out beyond the gate before she learned what the commander revealed. Daniel hadn't mentioned any of it, but apparently, he's the mysterious artificer that repaired the barracks' central air, the bathhouse water heater, and the storehouse cooling box. Any one of those three would be achievements, and he did all of them in a few days in the dead of night, even after how poorly everyone on base has treated him. For starters, she wants to know why he'd go so far, even for people who treat him poorly. Her relief, Lieutenant Freya, a bovine woman with a much larger stature than anyone else, but a gentle disposition, is checking over the west gate's logs before curfew and turnover. Afternoon, Freya.
Oh. Gwen. Welcome back.
Leave something behind.
No, nothing like that.
I was wondering. Has Daniel returned?
No, not since I took watch.
He's running out of time. Gwenesphia is silent for a moment. She asks, Hey. Do you think you could make an exception tonight? If he ends up being late? He's been working pretty hard. I don't particularly care to break the rules, Gwen. Less so for someone like him. I have a sister the princess's age.
What he did? What if?
It's not what we think. Then he's got some bad luck. I have no interest in forgiving him because he can make excuses. And, I'm certainly not going to break the rules.
I'm sorry, Gwen.
If he's not back by curfew, he's spending the night outside. Freya turns away, making it clear she's done talking about it. She's not in the wrong, of course.
But Gwen was hopeful.
She murmurs softly, he's the one that fixed the bathhouse. She walks away, paying no mind when Freya tenses and glances over her shoulder with surprise. The hours tick by, and still no sign of the strange otherworld. Tria is passing by with her watch team to go relieve the watch for the night, and she spots Gwen sitting on the well. She approaches, saying softly, Lieutenant? Shouldn't you be headed to bed soon? Gwenesphia looks up at her from her seated position. I've been worried.
Worried?
About what? The Gatanine lieutenant looks away. Daniel still hasn't returned. He's not even outside the gate like the other times. He's never been this late before. Tria cocks her head. Did he leave for an overnight trek?
No. He said he'd be back today.
Everyone else already returned. Bellstram had to go to the infirmary because she injured her shoulder. She said she was attacked by a pig.
A pig? Like a wild boar? Out here.
Tria finds that a little strange. Gwenesphia nods as she answers, that's what she said. Knocked her against a stone, apparently. Tria sighs, crossing her arms. If you're worried about the weed running into it, I'm sure it'll be fine. Things that don't belong are the hardest to get rid of. I wish everyone could be a little nicer to him. I don't think what they said about him is true. Why are you so insistent on that? Why would a king lie? If anything, since that king is apparently an otherworlder as well, I'd assume Daniel would have just had it all covered up for him. Why would he stay here though? Knowing how much so many of us dislike him. I was hoping to ask him.
Who knows?
It couldn't possibly be that what the report said is true and he's just searching for an opportunity. I'm sure all of those fixes were just so we'd let our guard down. Then, one of us is who's missing.
Gwen is quiet for a moment. Tria sighs.
She murmurs, I don't want it to be true.
I don't want it to be him.
I slept like a baby today. I hate it that he's the one to thank. Again, Gwen is quiet, and Tria grumbles, geez. Listen, if he returns, I'll let you know right away, alright? I'm not letting him in past curfew, but I'll tell you right away. She adds as she walks towards the gate she mans, besides. Idiot wouldn't break in anyways, even when someone opens the door for him. Why you did that?
Well, he was right.
I was going to turn him in if he did. But he didn't even try to accept my fake hospitality.
Gwenesphia frowns.
It's times like this I'm surprised he stayed more than a week.
Tria frowns. Listen.
It's not like I feel great now. I wanted him gone, but not like this. I'm sure he's just lost. He'll find his way back eventually. The mountains are easy to find, and so is the river. If he can't navigate back with those two giant clues, there's not much any of us can do to help him. She finally turns and starts walking. I gotta go relieve the watch. I'm taking my leave, Lieutenant. Night falls, and Gwenesphia checks one last time. She doesn't even make it to the gate before Tria spots her, and the night watchstander shakes her head. Worried, Gwenesphia reluctantly turns in for the night. She has her own duties to upkeep for the fortress, and she can't shirk them for personal reasons. Especially because until this particular day, no one really had any concern. The next morning, Gwenesphia reluctantly gets her breakfast before watch. As the soldiers of Fort Peie are slowly filing in, her Talma steps out of the kitchen area to call out, Hey! Anyone seen the scumbag? He's late again. Gwenesphia twitches, but she says nothing. She hasn't, so calling out would only be disruptive. And no one else answers, prompting a few hums of no, as they carelessly continue eating. Bellstram chide sourly, "Idiot probably fell off a cliff when his back was turned.
He's a city weed.
He doesn't belong out here on the frontier." A few of the women snicker. It hasn't spread beyond the 3 others that were present when the commander revealed that Daniel repaired the various things that came up working mysteriously, things almost everyone uses regularly, and no one really wanted to dig down to the answer. The first question the commander asked, "Is it possible it started working on its own?" was because it's possible. Magic devices can be finicky. Only artificers and artisans know how they truly work. But if Daniel was the one who repaired them, it also gives credibility to the doubt that he has no magic like he claims. Her Talma retorts coldly, "Well, if any of you do see him, tell him to report to the commander. I'm done with him." She returns back into the kitchen. This time, Gwen moves to say something, but she stops herself to her shame. She's still not certain herself if Daniel really was the one to repair the devices. But he's the only one who fits. Especially given the incident with Tria trying to catch him breaking into the storehouse. The quartermaster staff went over every item, but found no signs of tampering. The only evidence anyone had been in the room was a slight scuff of dust on the surface of the cooling box's bench, and it could have occurred during inventory. Gwen finishes her meal in silence, making her way to watch. She relieves as normal, but begins poring through the logs. A handful of people come and go into the demon wildlands every day. She finds the log entry of Daniel departing on a single day trek, written by her alternate when she's off. However, no matter how thoroughly she searches the pages, including blank pages, she can't find any signs that he returned. No one reported finding any of his equipment. No one reported finding a body. No one reported any blood. True, it's only been 1 day, but Daniel doesn't seem like the type to desert his post. He also wouldn't go beyond the recon perimeter. Her entire watch passes by slowly. She does her best to wear her usual expression, but her concerns are only growing. As soon as she's able, she heads to the commander's office. The secretary smiles and nods at her, meaning the commander is free.
She knocks on the door. "Enter."
Gwen walks in, saluting crisply. "Commander, Lieutenant Gwenesphia."
"Aye."
"Permission to speak freely, Commander."
"Go ahead."
Laywells is studying a map that she received via letter from the main command post east of the mountains. It shows arrows depicting troop movements, but the entirety of the troop movements are internal to the allied kingdoms. At a glance, it looks like a few of the other kingdoms are invading Bromlund. Gwenesphia pays it no mind though. Their duty is to the frontier, and the only reason they're receiving an outdated troop movement map is to show a glance of what might be delaying shipments, troops, or anything else. Fortunately, Fort Peie's remoteness and preparedness keep it from being immediately affected by smaller shipping delays. "Commander, I think we should send someone to look for Daniel." "Has anyone searched the base?" asks the commander without apparent interest.
"Not thoroughly, no.
But he was never logged back in. And he won't violate curfew. I heard someone tried to offer to let him in last time."
"Oh? Who was it?" "I don't know, Commander.
I think it might have been a test, in all actuality, and he passed."
Good to hear.
"But what makes you think he needs found?" "He was supposed to report back yesterday before curfew. He was even late for his morning duties."
"Yes, that I heard."
"Has it crossed your mind that he deserted, Lieutenant?" Laywells looks up finally, and Gwen looks to the side. "I don't think he has it in him. Not on the wildlands side." Laywells sighs, turning towards her window. She asks with a little coldness, "What's he to you? Has he been sweet-talking you, Gwenesphia?"
"What? No. Of course not, Commander. I just..."
"The more and more I see, the more I think. What if someone framed him in his kingdom?
What if the princess..." "Careful now.
It's not wise to accuse royalty of anything."
"Apologies."
"Regardless, I can't help but wonder, Commander." Commander Laywells turns around, pacing her office. "I received a letter yesterday, after everything that happened. The timing couldn't have been more or less perfect. Would you like to know what it told me?"
"Aye."
"If you think I'll benefit from it, yes, Commander."
"I do."
It was a reply to a request for information. "I've got some contacts in most kingdoms of the Alliance. Friends, mercenaries, nobles. When I asked about Daniel, the reply I got was curious. Do you know when Daniel was summoned?" "Not exactly, Commander. I had heard Mornisti performed a divine summon about a year ago." Now look outside." Gwen is confused at first, but she walks to the window, peering outside. Look at the well. Again, Gwen doesn't understand, but she looks at the well. A few people are drawing water from the pump. It was the first real time Gwen talked to Daniel like a person. She asks softly, "What am I looking for, Commander?" "That pump that we all use every day. Do you know when that was invented?" Gwen shakes her head. But she realizes why the commander must be asking. "Wait, Daniel." She looks at Laywells, who smirks and nods. Curious, isn't it? Is it considered invention if it was a historical technology from another world? The Gatanine lieutenant's ears flick. She stares blankly at the commander. How? That's not all I received in this letter. It seems he pioneered many things and proved capable of most magical device repairs, excluding crystals, as he's claimed to me. And yet, the one thing he doesn't deny are the written facts about why he was sent here. I too think there's more to it. However, I can't ignore the fact that someone accused of such things was stationed here, of all places. Commander. If we keep treating him like a criminal, then what incentive does he have? Regardless, Daniel knew the risks going beyond the gates. We're not responsible for him during that time. He will have to return on his own or not at all. If he returns, we'll know he's not a deserter. If no one else dies, we'll know he's not lying in ambush for those who've most likely earned his ire. If he never returns, then, well, I suppose we'll never actually know, will we? She turns back to her desk and her paperwork, stating, "Is there anything else?" What if he's hurt and can't return, Commander? If we receive a report and a location, I'll decide then. Until such a time, I expect the utmost professionalism to continue. Gwen bows, "Of course, Commander." Good. Then, starting tomorrow, there will be no more free scouting until further notice. You may take your leave. C-. Laywell scowls at Gwenesphia, who flinches. Did I say something foolish, Lieutenant? N-. No, Commander. You know how many soldiers go looking for others and join the lost? More than I care to count. I pride myself in being no great fool. If you disobey me, do it at your own peril. Now go. It sounds like someone else has something to talk about. Gwenesphia hesitates, but she reluctantly bows once more and makes her way out. She passes by the reconnaissance squad leader. They're about to rotate out the recon teams to give the active teams a break. The demons don't often make any attacks on Fort Peie, but it's important to stay alert. And, because of that, Gwenesphia is stuck. Commander Laywells, the commanding officer of the fort nicknamed the Flower Garden, just definitively said that Daniel is on his own. For a moment, Gwen had thought the commander was at least hospitable to Daniel, if not harboring some genuine respect. However, that hypothesis was just obliterated. Gwen knows she should still be cautious, but something about everything doesn't sit right with her. She grew up being taught not to blindly trust any one of her senses without hearing what her heart and soul each have to say. And both of them agree that something is off. Unfortunately, her options are limited. Daniel lays sprawled out on the boulder along the raging river around 10 yards away from the fall edge of the waterfall he saw on his way to Fort Peie. He almost escaped the river much further upstream, but he slipped back into the water when a log floating down the river caught his pant leg. Now, he's gripping a boulder with all of his strength, soaking wet and shivering as water dribbles from him. It's all he can or wants to do right now, cling to the rock he was able to drag himself onto, and try to catch his breath and warm up in the brief amount of sunlight. His right hand burns, mainly in his fingers, where he partially degloved his hand, detaching the skin from the underlayers and nearly pulling it from his hand entirely as he was slipping away from the rocks he had first climbed onto. He coughs. His ribs ache, his lungs burn and are still trying to expel excess moisture. He couldn't scream if he tried, his throat is hoarse and sore. His muscles feel like melted jelly from treading water and swimming for so long. He coughs, murmuring to no one in particular, "I dunno who the heck would do that in a barrel. Braver souls than I." He lays his face on the boulder, still clinging to the boulder with his whole body. After the sun sinks behind the mountains, he finally wearily climbs to his feet on the boulder, staying in a low crouch to move towards the main shore. The road is actually below him, barely visible from his current location. There is a small wooded area at his level, obscuring the slope or cliffs that he'll have to cross to reach the road. Daniel makes his way through the wooded area, climbing downward carefully when he can. He has to be careful. He wraps his right hand with rags when the air makes it feel like it's freezing, and he has to keep it close to his abdomen just to avoid excruciating pain. If he falls, he'll likely go into shock, assuming he doesn't faint anyways. As far as he can tell, he's not bleeding profusely anywhere, and though he's lightheaded, he is able to drag one foot in front of the other and keep himself upright and awake for now. Once he's in eyesight of the road, he walks west towards the fort. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't make it anywhere else without starving or dying.
At least at the fort, he has a chance.
He trudges slowly, careful not to overexert himself in this precarious state. His internal clock is suggesting that it's almost nighttime, but he doubts he's going to make it to the fort tonight. In fact, he has no idea how long he's been gone. He's lost time several times as he was climbing to the road, let alone escaping the river. He might have fallen unconscious on the boulder that he pulled himself out on.
He has no idea.
All he can do is try to survive. Or, failing that, at least he tried.
A week has passed.
The fort nicknamed the Flower Garden rests at the northernmost valleyway through the treacherous mountains dividing the known world. Fort Peie is almost entirely manned by women of many of the allied races, all tried and tested warriors in their own right, though this post serves political and ceremonial purposes more than combat. Its difficult terrain on both sides limits the advancement of troops, making it the relatively safest frontline fortress in the world. It also happens to be the place to which an otherworldly stranger was banished from his kingdom, a relatively disposable body meant for the machine of war. His alleged crime makes him lower than scum to many of the personnel on base, but his personality doesn't match the crime at all. The irony of those claiming he must like men due to avoiding the women most of the time is lost on most. And since heading into the demon wildlands a week ago, he hasn't returned. Tria watches the forest ahead, feeling guilty that she never got to the truth she knows is hidden. He disappeared after it was revealed that he repaired the magic devices around the base. She has mixed feelings, since she knows what was said about him, but knowing in spite of that, he made things better for everyone is difficult to reconcile. A handful of bodies emerge from the woods in formation, and Gwen twitches, quickly losing the spark of hope. It's one of the returning recon teams, who've been deployed for over a month. Tria approaches the gate, and the leader calls out, "Recon Team Sable, returning from recon. 8 individuals." She names off her subordinates, and the watchstander compares them to the recon log's departures.
Confirmed.
Open the gate. The gate is opened, and Tria replies with her diplomat smile, "Welcome home, Sable." Even though it's past curfew, recon teams are the exception, and she only casually glances to make sure the returning recon team members all look familiar, which they do.
Thanks.
The soldiers walk past, but the leader, Urihov, lingers behind. "Sergeant, can you tell me if anyone reported any attacks in the controlled zone?" "Attacks?" asks Tria confused.
No, why?
"We saw signs of a scuffle during our return, near the rocks overlooking the river. Someone or something went over the ledge."
Oh.
No one reported. Tria trails off. Her thoughts begin to race. However, outwardly, she can't prove anything. And she's not so sure she wants to. "We did have a report of a boar attack, but I assumed that wasn't what you were saying."
No.
"There were no signs of an animal present."
Oh.
"I'll log the report and begin warning anyone exiting."
Any idea?
"Any signs of who attacked who? Class of demon to watch out for." Urihov glances around briefly. She replies quietly, "I'm not sure, but it looked like 2 sets of boots, someone big and someone small. Prints were too faded to determine race." Tria nods as she digests the information, feeling an itch in the back of her mind.
Very well.
"I'll put out warnings to the watchstanders and anyone passing through. Please report to your supervisor."
Thanks.
"I'll do that right away. I'll take my leave." She makes her way into the base, and Tria leans against the wall.
I knew it.
He was biding his time.
So where is he?
After her watch, Tria meets up with Belstram, who is headed to the baths as well.
Hey Belstram.
"How's your shoulder feeling?"
My what? Oh. Fine.
"It was a much lower impact than I thought. Just bruised from landing hard on the dirt."
That's good.
Tria glances around as they walk towards the bathhouse. Why Belstram wanted to hide it, she's not sure, but she whispers, "Recon returned a little while ago. They might have picked up Daniel's trail without knowing it." "What?" yelps Belstram in a surprisingly shocked tone. It catches Tria off guard a little, but maybe it was worse than she feared. Belstram clears her throat, asking, "I mean, what makes them think that? He hasn't returned for over a week. Surely he's dead." Tria cocks her head. Is there any chance the boy was Daniel?" Belstram seems to tense a little. Her eyes glance around a little as well, though something seems a little off. But she croaks out quietly, "Why yes."
How did
you know?"
I knew it. So, he attacked you? How did he sneak up on you?
Was it an ambush?
I.
That's Belstram suddenly halts, dropping her towel in a clumsy fumble.
Dang it.
I gotta go get a clean towel. Please excuse me. She snatches her lightly dirted towel and hurries off back towards the barracks, and Tria watches her for a moment in surprise. Belstram doesn't return to the bathhouse during the time Tria is there. As Tria bathes, she ponders what could have happened to Belstram. She didn't have any obvious injuries when she returned, and she didn't seem particularly fearful. In fact, she's been quite happy Daniel was gone, like many of the other personnel stationed at the fortress. Idiot probably fell off a cliff when his back was turned.
He's a city weed.
He doesn't belong out here on the frontier. Tria was present at breakfast time, getting her last meal before going to sleep in preparation for her night watch when Belstram said those words. She was smug and in good humor about the statement. We saw signs of a scuffle during our return, near the cliffs overlooking the river. Someone or something went over the ledge. That was what Urihov told Tria after returning. But, Daniel is almost twice as tall as either Tria or Belstram.
He'd be a threat to.
Tria's thought trails off. He's not a warrior or soldier. He's intelligent, but he's always in a casual stance.
He'd be easy to push over.
He'd be easy to ambush. The only reason he noticed Tria that one night was because she was sloppy, and he only barely saved himself from getting caught. Any other time, she could easily do whatever she wanted, such as when he's sleeping in some secluded corner of the base or stranded beyond the gate. Someone or something went over the ledge. The ledge likely led to the river, which leads to a waterfall. If Daniel is the one who went over the ledge, it's unlikely he survived.
Or will even be found.
But, this is what I wanted, right? I wanted him gone too. Just because he might not have been the attacker. Tria closes her eyes tight. Her heart squeezes with guilt as she tries to convince herself that it's all right in the end. If he had attacked Belstram, she'd have no reason to ridicule him without claiming he attacked her. In fact, she'd have every reason to claim he attacked her.
Then, it could be seen as self-defense. Now,
Tria does her best to put it out of her mind. She heads to the game room, where there are a handful of tomes, some simple board games, and other basic hobbies to distract herself with.
Clunk SCFF.
A couple of days later, during the night shift, something seems to bump and slide against the eastern wall of Fort Peie. The watchstanders, who were just talking about the lack of moonlight being a pain during watch, glance at each other. Jianwar looks over the edge, calling out, "Who goes there?" She scans the area around the wall, but she finds no one right away. Daniel, oh other world. It's directly below her, next to the gate itself.
Daniel? Wait.
She leans way out over the wall to look down at the bottom of the wall. There, she finds a body slumped in a seated position against the wall. "What are you doing?" The man coughs, murmuring, "D-dash. Daniel from Otherworld." Returning from, he begins coughing. He's barely audible, and his voice is wavering and quiet. Jianwar orders, "Archers, line up and ready knock."
"Yes, Lieutenant."
Jianwar jogs down to the ground level where the man-door pass-through is. She cracks the door open cautiously, listening for an ambush. She uses the door as a shield to swing outwards, and she leans around it, still ready to retreat, but able to see him.
"Speak up."
"What are you doing?"
"Return F free," he coughs, losing strength. "Daniel." Jianwar looks around.
There are no eyes looking at them. There are no presences in the distance observing them. It's just Daniel, and he seems pretty worse for wear. The Hairfolk lieutenant sighs. She checks behind her, and several of her guards are present. She orders, "Mind the door. I'm going to check." "As you wish, Lieutenant." She closes the door behind her, cautiously approaching with her hand on her sword. Daniel of the Otherworld has been missing for over a week. Do you have an explanation? Daniel doesn't respond. He has his right hand wrapped at his waist, and he seems to have lost consciousness. His face is bruised and scratched, and his clothes are torn, with blood stains all over him, most if not all of which looks to be his own. She prods him with her sword. "Hey! I'm talking to you." His eyes suddenly flutter open, and he all but whispers, "I'm sorry."
"Please repeat."
"What language is that?"
"In English." "Sorry.
I'll wait here."
"Wait? For what?" "F first bell."
His head slowly sinks downwards, and he loses consciousness again. She cautiously tugs open the rag around his hand, revealing nothing hidden, but a terrifyingly dark hand with pale skin, like his flesh was peeled off and laid back on his hand. As she studies him, his breathing slows, and his heartbeat sounds like it's also dropping off. He's not faking it. Realizing he's actually in a medical emergency, Jianhua calls out, "Medical emergency. Medical emergency. Ring medic now." The watchstanders up top snap into action with a shout, "Medic. Ring medic. 313." The signaler begins pounding on the metal cone with the beater sticks, ringing 3 sharp, loud, distinct gongs, followed by a pause, then 1 gong, then a pause, and then 3 gongs, repeating this cycle over and over. Orders from up top reach Jianhua's ears as the archers take stations.
Archers. Ready. Spears. Ready.
Open the gate. Open the gate. The gate begins rumbling open, and the warriors just inside the tower Jianhua exited from quickly storm out, joining her with their weapons and shields at the ready guarding them. Jianhua orders, "Help me get him inside." Several of the soldiers sheath their swords and join Jianhua in dragging the tall human inside, and just as quickly as it all began, the watchstanders open the gate. All the while, the conical gong continues to ring until the entire fortress is lit up with lanterns and torches. A swarm of warriors, some in their pajamas or wrapped in towels with boots alone, sprint to the location with spears or swords in hand, while the on-duty medics sprint towards the area. Jianhua waves them down as the gate and portcullis are locked down once more, and the medics make their way to her, dropping their leather bags nearby and inspecting the patient. Is that him? How the hell did he survive that long? How did he make it back? Clear the way. Commander Li Wel's voice breaks over the din of the soldiers gathering and securing the area. The medics inspect Daniel's injuries and take his pulse. We're sure he's human, right?
Yes.
No evidence otherwise.
No baseline.
Pulse and breathing weak.
Unconscious.
Flesh detachment on right hand. Multiple lacerations. Severe bruising. No obvious signs of broken bones.
Agreed.
Commander Lewells jogs to a stop with her own pajamas and her cuirass loosely thrown over top. She has her sword drawn, but her eyes go wide when she sees Daniel. What's his status?
Alive.
Barely, Commander.
He'll need a potion. But,
should we?
Do it.
Yes, Commander. The brewing question doesn't need to be asked. Someone on base needs medical attention. Just as the lead medic is withdrawing a healing potion vial from her bag, Daniel's left hand snaps up, and he groans. The other 2 medics seize his hands, trying to calm him.
Calm down, Daniel.
We're helping you. Relax. He coughs as the lead medic starts tugging on the cap.
Daniel chokes out, "No.
It won't work." The medic halts, and she glances at Lewells. What do you mean?
Daniel groans.
No magic. You don't need an affinity for potions, Daniel. It'll make you feel better and save your hand. Just relax and...
No.
It'll be wasted. Daniel tries to climb to his feet, but the medics pin him down. You're in no condition to move. The lead medic looks up at the commander once more. She's staring down at them for a long time, thinking deeply. She says calmly, "Daniel, we have no reason to believe it won't work. Potions work on all living things." Daniel shakes his head.
"It won't.
Please don't waste it."
"I can't afford to," he coughs.
"Peie." Lewells sighs in disgust. She orders, "Give it to him. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then he's no worse off." The medic confirms the order with a nod, feeding the potion to Daniel. He tries to resist, but the commander orders, "Daniel, if you have any respect for me at all, drink. Prove to me it won't work." He hesitates, but he reluctantly nods, and the medic is able to help him drink the potion. It should work within a couple of minutes as the high magic content of the potion is absorbed by the body. However, nothing happens. None of Daniel's minor scratches close or fade, let alone his right hand. The warriors watching begin to murmur, as it's yet another thing that shouldn't be possible. Lewell says with a slight humor, "Well, at least we can confirm he's not an undead."
Daniel coughs. He remarks, "Tastes like
raspberries."
She chuckles.
She asks, "Any signs of attack?" "Negative, Commander." "Call the watchstanders from above."
"Fell river," murmurs Daniel. "What?"
"I fell into the river, climbed out downstream."
She sighs. "Understood.
But we still need to take caution. Take him to the infirmary. Do what you can to clean and dress his wounds. I want 2 guards watching him at all times. Don't let him do anything foolish."
The medics nod.
Understood, Commander. Laywells and Giannoir watch as the medics retrieve a stretcher from the youngest's bag, and they load Daniel onto it. With a couple of spare soldiers, they carry the otherworlder to the infirmary. How long was he sitting outside? We heard a thump, and challenged him as soon as we discovered he took a seat against the wall. He just kept trying to tell us who he was and that he was returning. It was no more than a few minutes once we knew he was there. And you're sure about that? The commander looks directly at the lieutenant. Why, yes, Commander. I admit I was suspicious at first, but as soon as I realized it was a medical emergency, I ordered the signal.
She flinches. Oh.
He did also speak in a language I didn't understand. When I asked him, he said ing lesh, I think.
Then, sorry.
I'll wait here.
Wait here? For what? Giannoir looks away.
First bell, is what he said. It's no secret that Daniel's no one's favorite person, and he spent more than one night outside of the fort thanks to hostility. It borders on cruelty, since he doesn't fight back or speak harshly or complain. In fact, he was so quickly accustomed to it, he adheres to the rules to avoid additional confrontation. Laywells murmurs, he genuinely believes none of you are trying to kill him. Stand down from emergency response. Watchstanders, resume the watch. She walks back towards the barracks building, carrying her sword in a relaxed position. Gwenesphia jogs into the infirmary. During the emergency call, her duty is to bolster manning of the west wall, which is opposite of where the emergency was. However, word spread quickly. Once they were allowed to stand down, she bursts through the door, asking, "Is it true?"
We're busy. Get out.
She sees the three medics preparing treatments and wraps for the human otherworlder as he lies on the treatment table. She sighs in relief.
It's definitely him. See, can I just? No. He's unconscious.
Get out, or I'll report you, Lieutenant. She flinches, but she nods obediently. But, there are two soldiers standing in the back of the medical room. What about them? Take it up with the commander. Last warning.
I'm going. Apologies.
She retreats from the room and takes a deep, relieving breath before exhaling all of the residual stress. He was pretty beaten up, but he's still alive. Her guilt would eat at her for a long time. Tria, like Gwen, was at the west wall. Her watch ended at midnight, but she normally sleeps during the morning and day, so she would normally be awake at this time. But, as if by fate, curiosity drew her to the infirmary, where the odds have been beaten. Gwen gives Tria a reassuring nod.
It's him.
Tria is silent for a moment.
She nods her head once. Good.
I'll be able to thank him and go back to hating him with a clean slate. She walks away swiftly, and Gwenesphia smiles. She makes her way back to sleep so that she can wake up bright and early. She heads first thing upon waking up to the commander's office, meeting the senior officer as she is arriving at her office in the morning.
Lieutenant.
About to go on watch, aren't you?
Yes, Commander.
I'll keep it brief. What is it? I was kicked out of the infirmary last night before I could check on Daniel, but there were two others that were in the infirmary who weren't kicked out.
You his wife.
Daniel starts to walk away, and Tria snarls, "Hey. Is that all you've got to say for yourself? You think I like having to watch over my shoulder?
Huh?
You realize this is a military fortress, right? How are we supposed to be expected to do our jobs if we have to constantly worry about being dragged off by scum like you? You should have done both worlds a favor and stayed in that river. At least then, you could feed nature." Daniel is quiet for a moment, and she glares at him. Daniel replies softly, "If I tried to explain how I was saving her life, would you believe me?"
And why should I, huh?
You, a disgusting weed, saved a princess's life? You're pathetic to lie about that. Then, I have nothing else to say.
Huh? That's it?
You're giving up that easily? Maybe you are just scum. He is quiet for a moment, and she crosses her arms, though her feline ears lay flat to the sides. Your guilty conscience is obviously getting the best of you now, but you still crawled back here.
Why? Huh?
Just waiting until you can rationalize.
She drowned.
She halts, and Daniel growls in the first angry tone she's heard from him. She drowned in the river, and everyone else gave up when she didn't have a heartbeat. Her corset was in the way. I don't regret what I did. I don't care that you hate me. If you can't stand me, get rid of me yourself.
You're right.
I didn't have the courage to stay dead. Daniel bows, growling more softly, "I'm taking my leave." He walks away, and Tria stares at him for a moment. She snaps, calling out, "Why, you're... Anyone can say anything.
Just? He ignores her, and she seems to give up. He sighs.
He eats his ration on the move, walking slowly to the smithy once more. He needs something to take his mind off of everything. He's been thinking everything she was saying on his own. He didn't need to hear it, but hearing it out loud makes it even harder to deal with. He knows he did the right thing, but would it be easier if he ceased to exist? He doesn't add much, even if he can pretend to be an artificer for brief periods of time. In the smithy, Daniel resumes what he had been tinkering away at most nights he could. His parts were still stashed in their corner, untouched because they served no immediate purpose to anyone else. He has the base parts for it forged, and he continues filing down rough spots on the moving parts. He's making a crude bolt-action rifle. It won't have the perfection of a carefully machined rifle, and it certainly won't have a proper rifling, though he did make a boring tool for getting at least some turn grooves in the barrel. If he can get the bullets to spin at all, it'll vastly improve performance. It's a quick and dirty design, and he over-designs certain parts, because he intends to use a bullet roughly the size of a 20mm round, which is larger than a .50 caliber. Of course, he's making all of the parts himself, so it's not going to be perfect. However, with enough powder behind it, a thick enough barrel and a hard enough core, his round should hopefully be able to penetrate even heavy armor and stone, and if his hopes pan out, potentially penetrate a dragon's scales. Failing that, if he can hit internals when it opens its mouth to attack or roar, he might be able to stop them.
That's the hope, anyway.
He does his best to make reproducible bullets, and he mixes the black powder from various chemicals and materials he was able to scrounge around the base. Nothing about his rifle will be perfect, but if he can fire more than once, and it can take down anything larger than himself, then he'll have succeeded. And in any case whatsoever, it serves as a distraction to keep his idle mind and hands busy. It's tedious, of course, working without the use of the pads of his fingers, which are the most injured from his slip.
But he is able to work.
Daniel is making bullets when the two women who were watching over him in the infirmary finally arrive. He slipped away when they got comfortable in chairs to talk about the revolution occurring in the kingdom of Bromlund.
Hey! Are you stupid?
You're supposed to be in the infirmary. I'm feeling much better. I'd rather work.
Sorry.
The medics haven't released you. Get back to the infirmary. I'm almost done with this.
Can I finish? No.
We have orders to keep you from doing anything stupid.
I'm just tinkering. Nothing difficult.
I was going stir crazy. The guards sigh in disgust. Don't make me get the medics. Why would you? Wouldn't you rather be doing anything else? Our job is to watch you. Doesn't matter what we want to do. I encourage you to watch me here. More difficult to escape, even if you sit outside. The other guard pats her shoulder. He's right. Who cares anyways? It's himself he's endangering. I swear I'm all right.
The first guard sighs.
When anyone asks, we told you. Daniel agrees wearily, but politely.
Thank you.
He continues tinkering on the individual bullets, and the guards glance at each other awkwardly. It's hot and stinks a little inside the smithy, so they make their way out to watch the stairs. It has the added bonus of telling anyone who might come looking where they are, including their reliefs. And when that time inevitably comes, the new watchstanders peek in on him, verifying that he's still working.
What? And no. I just...
Laywell sighs. I ordered 2 guards on Daniel at all times to ensure he doesn't try to do anything foolish. Commander Dash.
Not sinister.
I don't want him trying to wander around and work.
That's all.
Oh, Gwen straightens her posture, Commander. Request guard detail for Daniel. Any particular reason why? He's always been polite with me. I'd like to find out what he's hiding. Laywell sits down at her desk, stretching and yawning briefly.
Fine.
You can have second watch. After standing your gate watch.
Of course, Commander. Thank you.
What is it? Laywells leans to look past Gwen, and Gwen looks behind her. Tria flinches, and she's standing at the door, which was left open. I dash. Commander, she glances nervously at both of them. The commander sighs.
Take your leave, Lieutenant.
Sergeant, you may enter. Tria enters, but she says, actually. I'd like to speak to both of you, Commander. Curious, but aware of the hesitancy. She states, close the door. Tria nods in reply, and she closes the door. She then approaches the desk as close as she's allowed, standing alongside Gwen. Commander, Lieutenant. I believe Daniel is in danger. Laywell scoffs, tying her hair into her usual bun. I read the logs, Sergeant. Are you sure you wish to play this game?
Tria looks down.
I intentionally locked him out because of curfew on 2 occasions, Commander. I wanted to force him to use his magic. Laywell sighs in disgust. As was proven last night, Daniel doesn't have any magic capacity whatsoever.
I know, Commander.
I acknowledge what I did. However, I'm truly concerned that he's in danger now. Why the change of heart? She looks away for a moment, her triangular cat ears flicking nervously. I didn't know he was actually useful. I felt guilty using the hot water and air. She looks at Gwenesphia, murmuring, I think someone is going to try to kill him.
That's a bold claim, Sergeant.
I assume this won't be like the storehouse.
She looks down.
Just as quickly though, she quickly looks up saying, I was right though. He did break into the storehouse. She flinches under the commander's gaze narrowing. In spite of that, Tria stands her ground. I think someone pushed him over the cliff in hopes he wouldn't make it. Recon Team Sable reported an apparent scuffle that matches his disappearance. Do you have any idea who, Sergeant? I have only suspicions, Commander. I believe others can corroborate my suspicions, but it's regrettably only hearsay.
Laywell sighs. Who was it?
Tria squirms, but the commander growls, You started this, Sergeant.
Speak.
Bellstram said some suspicious things.
Bellstram?
And what did she say? Gwenesfia's eyes widen, and Commander Laywell's notices, looking at her. So, you heard it too? Gwen flinches and she squeaks, oh. I'm not sure if Sergeant Tria means the same conversations, but Bellstram has made several comments about Daniel's negligence causing him to slip down a hill and fall into the river over the cliffs. She made these remarks the day he failed to return. Tria agrees with a nod. She adds softly, she had also forgotten about her shoulder injury when I asked about it. And when I thought at first that Daniel had attacked her, she seemed hesitant to agree. She then made an excuse and has avoided me since. She was also surprised when I told her that the recon team's report indicated Daniel's trail. I think she thought he was still in the controlled zone. Laywell studies both of them for a moment. She murmurs thoughtfully, she was on a free scout on the same day. She pages through old logs, finding the entries. She nods as her memory is proven correct. However, she states the obvious. Unfortunately, Bellstram is not the only woman on this base that seems to want Daniel dead. She makes a point of looking directly at Tria, who looks down and confirms with a disappointed nod. After a moment of silence as Laywell thinks, she asks cautiously, Sergeant, have you confronted Bellstram about this matter? No, Commander.
Good.
And, have you confessed your regrets to anyone else but the 2 of us?
No.
Commander.
I see.
Then, I'd like you to express your disgust that he survived. The more vitriolic, the better. I want you to create suspicion that you were the one who arranged it. Naturally, you weren't in the logs that day as departing or returning, but all the better. See, Commander. You dislike him anyway, correct? I'm only asking you to express your feelings. Just do it in a way that makes you the prime suspect. I want to see who will object to my next move. Gwen murmurs cautiously, Commander. This sounds extremely dangerous. For Daniel, yes? We'll survive without him. Unfortunately, everyone knows you're relatively soft on him, Lieutenant, so just man your watches as laid out.
Sergeant?
Do you have any other questions? Tria glances at Gwenesphia, and then looks to the commander once more. She asks nervously, Commander.
Do you want Daniel gone?
The commander smirks cryptically. I can't exactly claim joy at his return. Take your leave, ladies. I'll determine the final watch bill soon. The 2 women glance at each other, and they bow, leaving the room. Daniel walks wearily out of the infirmary after the medics leave for dinner. He's not supposed to leave, but he's able to walk and move. His hand wasn't quite as bad as it looked and felt, but his fingers are still gravely tender and aching constantly, and his body is still sore all over. Daniel reaches the quartermaster before she closes up the storehouse, and the night watch sergeant is present. He's pretty sure her name is Tria. She twitches with a start when she sees him, but she scowls. You? Why'd you have to come crawling back, huh? Do you even have a reason to live anymore? Daniel keeps his practiced blank expression. He replies softly, apologies.
I suppose I don't. Please excuse me, Sergeant.
Quartermaster, can I get my ration for the night? The quartermaster replies quietly, sure. She retrieves one of the ration packs and hands it to him. Daniel nods politely.
Thank you.
I'll take my leave now.
Hey.
Aren't you going to sleep?
Eventually.
I'll let you know.
All right.
No funny business.
It's hot in here. We'll be outside. Don't mind me. I'll be here.
Daniel finishes 20 of the bullets, checking each one in the receiver to ensure a snug fit and that the bolt can lock into place. Given that he's making it with crude methods, he's got a working device that should be able to keep him safe. If it works as he hopes, all the better. If it works half as good, just fine. If it kills him, then his problems are over. After finishing the bullets, he tucks them into his battered shoulder bag, which he managed to return with. He'll retrieve the rifle components if he needs it. He then heads outside, telling the two women watching him that he's going to sleep. They nod, about time. However, when he walks towards the dining hall, they ask in confusion, "What are you doing?" "Going to my usual spot." "What are you talking about?"
Can we talk later?
"I'm tired. All you have to do is watch me, right?" Daniel walks to his normal spot and takes a seat against the wall of the dining hall, where the residual heat helps keep him warm. The two watchstanders glance at each other uneasily.
Why?
"You're going to sleep here."
Yes. Warmest spot on base.
"Please don't mind me." He lays his head back and drifts off to sleep rather quickly, given that he's worn out. Tria groans at the dining table.
Geez.
"I hate that guy so much. He's so pathetic." A few of the other women at the table with her nod in agreement. "I mean, how can a guy be so pathetic? He's worse than a little boy." She puts her cheek on her fist, grumbling as she toys with her food. It'd have been easier if he didn't come back.
Indeed.
How did he even make it back? Especially with no magic. One of the medics is sitting nearby, and she murmured, "I was surprised the potion didn't actually work."
Talk about a waste.
Can't believe I agree with him on something. Tria grumbles, "What's worse, he doesn't even contribute anything anymore. We're supposed to just have a scummy freeloader just floating around doing whatever he wants."
Right.
Why does the commander keep him around? Gwenesphia finally tries to speak up, because... Tria cuts her off with a scowl, because she was obviously hoping he was lying about having no magic. He's supposed to be a divine summon supposedly, but he's the most useless person in the world. The others nod in agreement. But Gwen tries to refute, "That's not." Tria snaps at her, "He's a spineless coward. He doesn't deserve to even be alive. Why do you defend him? Would you trust him to fight alongside us? Would you trust him to sleep next to you in a tent? He's a bad person, Lieutenant. I don't care how polite he seems. I hate that I had to see him." One of the women murmurs as she cuts her food, "It'd be a shame if something happened to him. He's weaker than before. He might get hurt falling." Bellstram adds, "He goes in and out of the smithy every night. Lot of sharp objects in there." Gwenesphia gasps, glancing at the others. "Why, you can't talk like that.
You can't threaten."
Tria stands up, saying coldly, "Who's threatening? He doesn't care about his own life.
Why should any of us?"
Gwen is silent for a moment, but only because she's shocked and doesn't know what to say. Tria says quietly, "I'm off to bed. Good day, ladies." She makes her way out. She reaches her room and closes her door. She sinks to a seated position against her door, clutching her head in her hands. She feels sick. She agreed with those points wholeheartedly at one point, but to really hear herself, now that she has to intentionally do it. Why couldn't you just defend yourself? Why put up with it? Leave. Go anywhere but here.
Lash out. Anything.
She lies down on the floor in front of her door, feeling pretty scummy herself. The hopeful part of her heart is desperate to believe the commander is just playing cold and heartless. She's always been a brave and intelligent sort. She's not usually an overly friendly person, but to think she might actually want Daniel disposed of without saying it explicitly.
No. That can't be.
She's the one who pointed out what Daniel had done for the fortress. She made a point of shoving it into my face. She's definitely trying to lure out anyone truly hostile.
I hope.
She kicks her foot, feeling her leather training helmet tumble across the floor. It wouldn't really matter normally, but she hears it hit a stand, and her gaze snaps up. She watches helplessly as a precious personal treasure falls from the stand, a small magic device that depicts her and her siblings, with a voice recording of her little brothers and younger sister singing their favorite lullaby to her. It hits the floor, flickering briefly, before the glowing magic image dissolves. Tria stares in horror. She scrambles across the floor, fidgeting with the device. However, it refuses to turn back on.
No. No. Not this.
Anything but this. She straightens instantly. Daniel. She winces. The obvious aside, there's no way she can approach him and not lose her image of hostility towards him. That would almost be worse than the look of disgust she'd get from him for even pondering asking. But there's no one on base that can repair this device, save for maybe one. Her mind races as she tries to find possible angles. Maybe he'll do it if I leave it with a letter. But then, he'll know it's someone who treats him badly any other time. Could I ask Gwen to do it? No. She seemed pretty disgusted by my behavior too. As she considers possibilities, her eyes water. It's a simple little magical device, but it's the most valuable thing Trya owns, especially since it's the only way to hear her youngest brother's voice now. She stands up, wiping the tears from her eyes. She hides the device in a shoulder bag and leaves her room. She knows exactly who will be able to help her. Commander Laywells makes a copy of her weekly status report to be sent to the forward operating base that's the main base from which Fort Peie is technically staged. It's not an easy route in or out of the valley, so traffic is minimal, but she does make regular reports to ensure they're up to date on any non-urgent happenings. Her favorite part about her station is that it's quiet, for the most part. She's heard that the far southern base near the ocean is almost continuously hammered with attacks, keeping that fortress at an uneasy state of tension. They lose few troops, but it will undoubtedly turn into a real battle at any time, and has on several occasions. The demons leave her little corner of the world alone. For that, she is thankful to the gods.
A knock comes at the door.
She keeps her sigh internal. Her office has been unusually busy the last few weeks.
Enter.
Trya enters, saluting politely. Commander, Sergeant Trya.
What is it now?
Giving up already?
Commander. I need help.
Laywells cocks her head.
Help?
With what? Trya presents the small magical device, saying, I need Daniel's help. But, there's no way he'll help me. Not after what I've said. And if I am to keep doing it. The commander massages her chin briefly.
I see.
You believe Daniel can repair this device?
Trya looks down.
I know no one else here can. And, I also know we're not likely to see an artisan or artificer all the way out here otherwise.
Please.
Can you please have him repair this for me? I dropped it, and it stopped working.
I'll pay. I'll apologize.
I'll even continue what I've been doing. Laywells knows what the device is. She doesn't necessarily know what Trya's is loaded with, but they're a common miniature magic device popular with noble families for preserving a small moment in time. It's something to lift one's spirit without fail.
I see. Quite the predicament. I beg of you, Commander.
Please do this for me. It's precious to me.
Yes, yes. I understand.
Hate truly is the ugliest gown, is it not? Commander. No one who wears hate wants anyone else's hate to outshine their own. And no one who wears hate actually wants to see anyone else's in the first place, even if they agree on what they hate. People wear it because it's in style, and yet, no one can bear to look at it for too long. So very fascinating. The commander trails off as she stares off into the distance, making a poetic and slightly dramatic point. However, it's not lost on Trya. She frowns softly. Laywells is saying that it serves no actual purpose, and no one actually sympathizes. They only use it as an excuse to flaunt their own. The commander waves her hand at her desk. Set it on my desk. I'll see to it Daniel takes a look in a little bit, after you've disappeared. Thank you so much, Commander. I don't know how to thank you properly.
Oh, don't worry. That time will come. Now, carry on.
I have to finish writing my weekly report. Trya nods and bows, trotting out of the room. Laywells finishes her report, and she rolls and seals them with her magic stamp, handing them to her secretary to be sent.
Reports for command.
Send them tomorrow. Yes, Commander. She returns to her office for a moment, retrieving the precious device and the bag to obscure it. She carries it under her arm, heading for the barracks. It's still early in the morning, so Daniel should still be sleeping. First bell will ring in around a half an hour. She approaches the barracks front desk, and the deck sergeant perks up. See, Commander. She salutes, adding, Good morning, Commander. Good morning. I'm looking for Daniel's room. The sergeant flinches a little.
His room?
Commander.
Yes.
The room he should be in right now, yes. The sergeant turns pale, and the commander's eyes narrow. He has been given a barracks room, has he not? I have not received any reports of reaching capacity.
We're
not at capacity, Commander.
Oh? Then,
Where is Daniel's room located? He never asked for one, Commander. She stares at the pale and trembling sergeant.
she sighs.
I suppose I should be proud, shouldn't I? The sergeant cocks her head in confusion, but Laywells turns and walks out. She heads to the infirmary, since he might still be recovering. However, she's met with a similar absence. Commander.
Lieutenant.
Have you seen your patient?
Which patient, Commander?
She narrows her eyes. The one who's a waste of your services.
Oh. Don't know, Commander.
He snuck out and refuses to follow instructions.
I see.
I'll take my leave then. She makes her way out again, looking around. She doesn't see anyone out of place at the moment. The quartermaster notices her, and she asks, Commander?
Looking for someone. I am.
Have you seen Daniel?
Not yet, Commander.
Have you checked behind the dining hall?
I have not.
Why would I check behind the dining hall? I think he sleeps back there. Laywells cocks her head. She's baffled. She understands the stance many of her soldiers have taken. It's deeply rooted and widespread, apparently. But she underestimated the almost cruel level of neglect and malicious apathy. She walks around behind the dining hall, and to her surprise, though she shouldn't be apparently she finds two watchstanders sitting on the ground next to each other, bored, as a third person is sitting against the wall of the dining hall. The guards spot her first, and they both scramble to their feet. See, Commander. They salute her. The commotion causes Daniel to look up, and he looks at Laywells with weary eyes. He climbs to his feet as she walks to within a few steps of the three. Daniel mimics the salute, saying quietly, Commander.
Pardon my.
Silence, Daniel. He halts and nods obediently. She looks at him, and the other two briefly. She tells Daniel, I'm surprised you've lasted this long, Daniel. Seems this location wasn't secluded enough. The two guards look at her in confusion, realizing that she's insinuating something. However, Daniel says nothing. She dismisses the two watchstanders with a motion of her head and the order, you two leave us. Commander. Think he's capable of killing me? They hesitate, and she scowls at them. They quickly bow, we'll take our leave, Commander. Be careful. She watches as they walk away for a moment. Once they're out of earshot, she murmurs, Daniel. Join me in my office. As you wish, Commander. She leads him the opposite way, heading to her office. There, she orders her secretary to retrieve breakfast for herself. Once the secretary is gone, she closes the door and walks back to her desk chair, taking a seat with a sigh. Daniel. I don't know what to say. Understood, Commander.
I doubt it.
She sets the treasured crystal projection device on her desk, and she sighs. Why am I only now learning of all of this? All of what, Commander?
Don't play dumb.
You're terrible at it. She glares at him, and he doesn't flinch. He has a glassy expression, but he's making eye contact with her. It's not the first time he's been reprimanded by a superior. The level of discipline he has maintained at her fortress has put most of her seasoned soldiers to shame. She clarifies, have you been sleeping outside all of this time? Anywhere that's out of the way, Commander. You know that isn't what I meant. And, what about your blanket? I misplaced it. She clenches her fist. Any reason you're not using your barracks room? I don't have a barracks room.
You should.
What did the barracks officers tell you?
Tell me the truth, Daniel.
I already know.
He looks down.
They told me that they don't have any spare rooms for men. The commander sighs in disgust. We'll deal with that later. Take a look at this. She slides Tria's device across the desk, and Daniel steps forward. He asks, may I? Please do. He picks it up, turning it over in his hands. She explains, it's a sort of personal treasure that holds a moment in time. It projects an image, and uses the sonic crystal with a recorded voice to project the recording. Daniel asks, was it dropped?
It was.
Can it be repaired? Daniel seems to be inspecting every surface of it, and every piece. It looks like a small crystal peeking up from a small jewelry box, and he opens the lid, leaving no portion of the device unexplored. The sonic crystal is cracked. I can restore the image projection crystal with some certainty, but I don't know if I can restore the voice. These appear to be standard magic crystals, but smaller, which means they're made of salt, so I can try something, but I don't know if it'll work. What happens to the voice recording?
I don't know.
It looks like this other part is a source of some kind, so I'm hoping it's the memory, since it's the only other thing that ties to both projection crystals, by the looks of it. As long as the memory is intact, the crystal should just be what turns that into sound. Have you repaired this kind of device before?
No.
But Earth has similar devices. What I described is essentially how we did it. Just, instead of crystals, it was a diaphragm.
He sets the device down.
How would you repair the sonic crystal, if you think you can? The crack is a complete fracture, it's just being held together by the device's frame, by the looks of it. It still seems to have a glow, indicating the magic is still stored, but it can't conduct properly. I'd be willing to try to melt additional salt on the surface, since the surface is the most important part. I don't know what the consequences of this will be though.
I see.
Salt can be melted. Daniel confirms with a nod. It's a high temperature though. If I remember right, it's comparable to silver or gold. Maybe a little higher. So, you'd need to use the smithy, yes? Definitely. And in fact, I'd prefer to avoid melting the whole crystal, since I don't know what it'll do. If I can adhere the surfaces of the crack with a little bit of thickness into the crystal, it should hold well enough. To do that, I'll need extra salt and tools to precisely melt just where I want the melting to occur. You think this will work? If not, I'd be willing to attempt melting the crystal entirely, though I worry about what will happen to the stored energy.
I see. Would you be willing to try? Asks the commander.
This is a priceless personal effect for a soldier this far away from home. Daniel nods in understanding. I'll do everything in my power, but I can't promise it'll work. That said, I have to remove the crystal, so it should be able to be repaired by a proper artificer if I fail without losing the memory. She agrees warmly.
Very well.
You may work here and the smithy at your leisure. I'll send you with a note to the smithy and the dining hall. Use what you need.
Thank you, Commander. I'll begin then.
He carries the device to the low tea table nearby, and he sits on the floor. Laywells continues her work, but she glances at his progress from time to time. To her surprise, he does get the projected image to appear, depicting 3 Gatanine children, 2 boys and a girl. Daniel nods with satisfaction that the image projection is working once more. Laywells can't help but smirk, though she ensures he doesn't see it. He carefully checks the components, and with a delicate hand, he pulls 2 uneven halves of a crystal from the inside of the box. The crystal indeed seems to have broken in half from the fall, and he ensures to collect any small chunks that fell off. He keeps the crystal together. It's been a little over an hour, and he stands up and approaches the desk. I'm prepared to work on the crystal, Commander. She nods and hands him the note she promised. Show this to the appropriate supervisors. If they give you any trouble or resistance, return to me immediately. I want to see this device repaired.
Will do.
I'll try not to cause trouble, Commander. If the furnace is in use. Use your best judgment. I'm trusting you on this.
I understand the stakes, Commander.
I shall return as soon as I can. He bows and begins to excuse himself. Do you intend to ask Daniel?
About what, Commander?
About that device's contents. I am clearly not a Gatanine. Your husband could be. You could have adopted. You could be asking on behalf of someone. I assumed that if it was relevant to my work, you would have told me. But it's personal, and clearly not my business. Commander.
She smirks. Very well.
Good luck, Daniel. He excuses himself, leaving the room. Laywells focuses on her own work, reading reports that have been delivered and penning responses for different changes of personnel. Soldiers come and go from a military base. Some are approved by her beforehand, others show up in issues of communication, like Daniel, due to a kingdom falling into chaos. And Bromlund is falling fast and hard. The Stalvoltan Guard seems to be dominating the southern third of the kingdom single-handedly, which is no surprise. The Stalvoltan Guard is considered one of the top military forces in the world, specializing in both offensive magic and armed combat. They don't even have a mounted cavalry, as a small squad of soldiers can disrupt a cavalry charge alone, and their standard infantry have never been defeated. True, they've never battled at a ludicrous disadvantage, but they've demonstrated why they shouldn't be underestimated. If their numbers were greater, the war with the demons would be an afterthought in the pages of history. Wait, who was it that Daniel said he served?
A Wenliana?
Laywells looks at the report more closely. A magic artisan of the royal court was supposedly chosen from one of the children of the Stalvoltan Grand Duchy, but it couldn't be the same, could it? How did Daniel end up all the way out here with allies like that? After a few hours pass, a knock comes at the door. The commander states in her usual tone, "Enter." The door opens, allowing Daniel to enter. His face is covered in soot and sweat, and he has several burns on the exposed skin of his arms and face. She cocks her head, but he simply states, "Commander, I believe I was successful. I'll reassemble the device now." He takes a seat on the floor where he was, and she stares at him for a moment. She asks, "Are you all right, Daniel? Do you need medical attention?" "I'm all right, Commander. I was careless." She scowls at him, and he says in his most diplomatic way possible, "No one did this to me. I couldn't find gloves or a shield to fit me, so I went without. I'll survive though." He begins fidgeting with the device, and the bell outside begins to ring. It's the last bell of the day, indicating the end of the workday. She looks at the window, where the sun is setting, causing a beautiful glow on the horizon. She then looks at Daniel once more. She sighs, "Take a break, Daniel. You can finish tomorrow." "If it's all right, Commander, I'd prefer to keep working. I'll move out into the hallway if you're going to close up your office for the night." "And leave you to pick the lock?" "Pardon, Commander, but could I not have any other night?" She scowls at him for a moment. He's not wrong. "Fine. I'll let you stay in the waiting area outside. But once I'm done with my bath, we're headed to the barracks to clear up the misunderstanding. You have until then to get to a stopping point." Daniel moves his work pieces out into the waiting area of her office building, and he takes a seat on the floor at the coffee table once more. She sighs, locking her office door. She and her secretary make their way out of the building for the time being. Daniel turns the sonic crystal over in his fingers. It's much smaller than a typical magic crystal, but he imagines that only really affects its longevity of service. He couldn't recharge it, but even melting the crystal down doesn't seem to have discharged its stored charge. Or if it has, it only lessened it some, since the salt molecules were still in contact with each other the entire time. He still has a lot to learn about the magic of this world if this is to be his profession, though he suspects he'll be lucky for that to be the case. Liana and her family must be rather angry with him, since he left without saying anything and ultimately agreed with Rikudo's plan to do so. He was a useful asset, but not much else. Liana made it clear exactly what their relationship was from the very moment they met until the last time he spoke to her. He doesn't mind, but he also can't forget it. He plugs the crystal back into place, but he wonders how it got broken in the first place. If the box was dropped, there doesn't seem to be enough to cause that kind of force directly on the crystal, thanks to the small cradle it sits in. That said, never let it be said that Daniel is completely brainless. He coils a simple spring out of leftover wire he had from the smithy, and he uses it with a small piece of fabric to ensure a snug but shock-absorbing seating. He also does the same for the other crystals, ensuring they don't lose conductivity with the mana delivery components. He also makes sure all of the other fittings are put back together and closes the box, activating the device. The image comes up, the three young Gatanine children with big happy, adoring grins. He smiles, and he activates the sound. However, nothing happens. But he doesn't give up. He never actually removed the cover from the memory components, and the image was working, so he didn't want to chance it. But now he has to check. He opens the box back up and inspects the inside. Sure enough, the mana delivery tubing is slightly ajar on the memory unit feeding the sonic crystal, so he restores everything the way it's supposed to be. The unit itself reminds Daniel of a polished river stone, but with magic runes on it. What material it is remains a mystery, as the stone has an unnatural silvery blue tone that looks almost transparent, but also like it's glowing. Once he pieces it back together, the earthling mechanic activates the sound again. 3 voices suddenly cheer, which startles him. It's about the same volume 3 excited children would be, which startled him mainly because it was so quiet until just now.
All 3 exclaim, "Big sister! Big sister!
We love you! We love you lots and lots, so come home quickly."
Okay? GE.
Daniel can tell they're orating a hug on the crystal. Then, what sounds to be a girl's voice speaks next. "Big sister Tria, I've always looked up to you, so I hope you'll accept this little gift and remember us. Because we'll always be praying for you to return safe and sound and with lots of stories. Anne, I'm learning to cook your favorite meals, just for you. So hurry back."
Next, a young boy speaks. "Big sis. Big sis.
Today Hestori, Barlin and me all went to the river today all by ourselves. We caught lots and lots of swim darts and splaships. Just like you showed us. I love you more than these 2 do," so 2 other voices shriek, "Hey." A different young boy speaks with a much softer voice and a slight weariness.
"Hey big sis Tria.
I miss you. I want to be big and strong when I grow up. Stronger even than you. That way. I can protect you, finally. So wait for me, big sis. The recording ends with a touching lullaby sung by all three, and Daniel smiles. He says softly, I can say with confidence, all three of you have succeeded. Your big sister is sure to make you proud. He stands up and puts it in the bag that Commander Laywells gave it to him in, and he carries it to the bathhouse, waiting outside. Gwenesphia, the Gatanine morning guard, exits the bathhouse and notices Daniel. She approaches, saying, Oh,
Daniel?
what are you doing? He replies, waiting.
Waiting?
You mean for men's hour? That's still quite a ways away. I don't have anywhere else to be at the moment, so I'll wait.
I see.
Do you want to go sit in the break area, for a short while?
Daniel smiles. Thank you, but I shouldn't.
I got quite dirty today. I wouldn't want to ruin the furniture. That's...
Wow.
You are dirty. What were you doing? With a chuckle, he replies, working in the smithy. I received a specific task from the commander.
The commander?
WH-.
What was it?
It wasn't anything weird, was it? It was weird for it to be asked of me. But, I was just reforging something for her. It was nothing.
I see, she sighs. Listen.
I want you to know. Do you need something from our esteemed outcast, Lieutenant? The voice that asks is cool and stern, none other than the commander. She flinches, whirling to face the imposing woman.
See, Commander.
I was just talking to him. She replies with a cold scowl. Oh really? Are you two friends now? Is that why I found out today about all of the other things that you ladies have done on my behalf? See, Commander. Laywells ignores her.
Come, Daniel.
We're getting you a barracks room. It's a shame it took this long. Gwenesphia flinches a little. Daniel bows at her nonetheless, saying politely, Please excuse me, Lieutenant. She watches them walk towards the barracks. As they walk, Laywells remarks, I didn't expect you to give up and wait for me outside the bathhouse. I finished early, Commander.
Finished. He nods to confirm.
He begins pulling the device out, but she interrupts him. Wait. Not out here. He eases the device back into the bottom of the bag, continuing to carry it secluded. Daniel, I have a question. Would you like to be my cabin boy for the time being? Cabin boy, Commander?
That's right.
Run errands on my behalf around the base, clean my office, and do personal requests. She glances at the device. I'd be honored, Commander, so long as it won't cause trouble.
She scoffs.
Everything you've been putting up with, you deserve to cause some trouble. With a sigh, she adds, starting now, you report directly to me.
Understood.
Yes, Commander.
Good.
She slows a little as they approach the door, and Daniel quickly steps ahead, taking hold of the door and opening it for her. She smiles and nods approvingly, walking through. Daniel follows behind, and she approaches the barracks office counter. Commander. Good evening.
Good evening, Sergeant.
I need the key to Sergeant Tria's room. I'll be performing an inspection.
Oh. Of course, Commander. Thank you.
The sergeant looks up Tria's room, and then retrieves the staff key, handing it to Laywells. She then turns, Come, Daniel. Yes, Commander. She hands the key to him and leads the way, while the barracks duty sergeant leans out over the counter in surprise. They find Tria's room, and Daniel unlocks and opens the door. He opens it for Laywells to enter, and she walks inside, with Daniel following behind. He closes the door, and she looks around. Good. Set it down, Tea table should be obvious enough. Daniel walks to the tea table in the center of the room, which is wide and low to the floor. He pulls the device out of the bag, setting it on the tea table. The holographic image is always running, it seems, and so he does one final check on the voice. He starts the voice recording, and the children cheer. Then, the girl begins speaking, Big Sister Tria. As the children state their messages, Daniel remarks, I hope it didn't lose any of the message. Like magic crystals, the stones used for memory are beyond me. Commander Laywells smiles softly for once. I assume this means you know whose device it was.
Daniel scoffs.
The evidence is pretty strong towards one conclusion, Commander. And you still chose to repair it? I don't care what they think of me. I've been used all my life, this world and my own. I've heard she has a pretty poor opinion of you, Daniel. To the point, she was disappointed that you survived your ordeals. Daniel sighs, listening to the children talk for a moment. I promised someone I wouldn't speak of giving up on life, Commander. I came back because I didn't have the courage to stay in the water and go over the waterfall.
I was afraid.
He stands up when the recording finishes, and he faces her. I long ago accepted that I will always be an asset to the women around me. I don't have the charisma or attractiveness to be a person in their eyes. But if I can focus on my purpose, the things I'm good at, I don't need validation from anyone.
He smiles at the device.
If I can accomplish something, the accomplishment is its own reward. He straightens his posture, revealing that he's been slouching and she hadn't really realized it. Leigh Wells is an average-height woman in this world, and she has to look well up to make eye contact with Daniel when he's standing at his full height. To my knowledge, it's fixed, Commander. Feel free to place the credit where you see fit.
She smirks. Are you sure?
Clearly, I have a secret asset.
He chuckles.
Nothing new here, Commander. She laughs a little.
I don't understand you, Daniel.
But, I appreciate what you did. They leave Tria's room, and Daniel ensures the room is locked. They return the key, and the commander then gets a room assigned to Daniel. He's provided a blanket and pillow, as well as a key. She also tells the sergeant to put a note on his room that she is to be present for every inspection of Daniel's room. And from there, Daniel officially has a place to sleep after coming to the base. Of course, it's still early for him, so he makes his way back out to the smithy to continue making his defense equipment. Not only that, he can move them to his barracks room. If he can continue to lay low, then he'll be able to manage. One day at a time. Tria goes off watch, yawning as she makes her way to her room to retrieve her bathing bag. She keeps it just inside her door so that she can go to the bathhouse right away. She hates being dirty more than most other things. As she's making her way to the bathhouse, she spots Daniel getting water. One of the East Gate watchstanders headed to the baths as well says from nearby, "Ugh.
I'd watch myself, Tria.
I heard Daniel tried to get you into trouble with the commander."
What?
Evening barracks quarterdeck supervisor told my lieutenant that Daniel was following the commander around, and your name came up.
She swallows hard.
Please tell me it was just the device. Was he able to fix it?
Wait. That's it.
She approaches him haughtily. She has to choose her words carefully, but she can maintain the image while fishing for information. You.
Weed.
Don't you have anything more important to do right now? Daniel turns and his gaze cools. He just went into his shut up and take it expression that he always wears. He replies, I report directly to the commander, Sergeant. Please excuse me.
I don't think I will.
That's pretty presumptuous of you, thinking you're important enough to be close to the commander. You should be ashamed of yourself for lying like that. If you're just going to waste time, why do you even stay here? Please just say you worked on it.
Please?
He surprised her when he pulled out a folded-up piece of paper. He unfolds it and hands it to her. She read it briefly, and her jaw drops. If anyone confronts you, show them this letter. Effective immediately, Daniel is cabin boy to Commander Laywells, direct report. Signed, Commander Laywells, Commanding Officer, Fort Peie. Tria tosses the letter back, and he manages to catch it. She crosses her arms, saying bitterly, fine. But what's so great that you did today that you can think you're better than dirt, weed? Ha. Daniel replies, nothing, I suppose. I'm taking my leave. She watches, a little disappointed, as he walks away.
I guess, that's a no, huh? I hate this.
Why did I have to be the one to do this?
This is awful.
He's going to break it at this rate. I'm sorry.
She heads to the bathhouse.
She doesn't pay attention when the others try to express solidarity for Tria and disgust for Daniel. Her mind is on her family recording. Will she ever hear her youngest brother's voice again? Will she be able to find comfort in her siblings reassuring her and telling her they love her? Will Daniel even try to fix it? She winces at this last notion. She's treated him poorly since the day he arrived, and the commander ordered her to continue to do so. It would be more surprising if he doesn't break it if he figures out it's hers, let alone repair it. As she reaches her room to return her bath bag and toss her dirty clothes into her hamper, she takes a seat against her door once more, sighing. What would my siblings think of my behavior? Why did I agree to do that? She opens her eyes and stares ahead blankly. The image of her 3 younger siblings stares at her. Her eyes water, and she looks away. Now I'm seeing things? Of course they'd hate me. They'd be disgusted. I'm supposed to be their cool, kind, mature. She snaps her eyes to her tea table. The image of her siblings is floating there, staring back at her with big, happy grins as they crowd into the hologram. Tria trips over her arms and legs to scramble to the tea table, and she stares at the apparition as her hands tremble on the edge of the tea table. Sure enough, she sees a magical device used for storing a memory, both an image and a voice recording through magic. And the image of her siblings is as crisp and beautiful as it's always been. She reaches for the ghostly apparition, and as she touches, she feels the projection crystal, which causes the image to waver as the magical effect is distorted by her hands. She gasps as tears well anew in her eyes. She touches the various parts of the jewelry box-like object.
It's present. It's solid.
It's sitting on her tea table in her room, projecting the image. However, there are two components, and terror grips her heart. Daniel has no idea. There's no way he does. He has no idea that her brother is gone, and that this is the only way she'll ever hear his voice again. Even if it's a little distorted and buzzy. It's been that way for a long time.
But it's still his voice in there.
She hesitates as she hovers her finger over the activation for the voice. She doesn't want to know. She doesn't want it to be gone. She wants to linger in the hope. She swallows hard, tapping the activation point. She chokes on her own breath as 3 children squeal in glee, 2 boys and a girl. Her tears swell, and she whimpers.
Big sister. Big sister.
We love you. We love you lots and lots, so come home quickly.
Okay? GE.
Tears start to trickle down her cheeks as she listens, staring at the images with a distant stare. Something is strange, but she can't place it yet. Big sister Tria, I've always looked up to you, so I hope you'll accept this little gift and remember us. Because we'll always be praying for you to return safe and sound and with lots of stories. Anne, I'm learning to cook your favorite meals, just for you. So hurry back. Her younger sister, Hestori, speaks. Her voice is relatively mature, given that she's almost 10 years younger than Tria, and was only 8 years old for the recording dash.
And it's silky smooth. Big sis. Big sis.
Today Hestori, Barlin and me all went to the river today all by ourselves. We caught lots and lots of swim darts and splaships. Just like you showed us. I love you more than these 2 do, so 2 other voices shriek, Hey. Tria scoffs, her tears pouring steadily from her eyes as she laughs tenderly. Jermel, her middle brother, was boisterous and too brave for his own good. He got his siblings in almost constant trouble with their parents and with Tria, who often had to babysit them while their parents were working. His voice is the loudest, but he also sounds kind and giddy, just a happy and joyful person to be around. He sounds exactly as she remembers the last time she saw him.
Hey big sis Tria.
I miss you. I want to be big and strong when I grow up. Stronger even than you. That way. I can protect you finally. So wait for me big sis. Tria stares in horror and disbelief at the device. The lullaby begins, and tears pour from her eyes. He promised to become strong. He would become her protector to pay her back for the time she defended him from a fongtung. Her hand drifts to the left side of her belly, where she was slashed by its blade-like tongue as she dove onto Barlin to protect him. That was only a year before sickness claimed him, 2 months after he recorded that message. However, it's not the message that has her frozen, swirling in a torrent of memory.
It's his voice.
There is no rattle.
There is no buzz.
There is no hum or crackle. There are no pops or silent spots. Barlin's voice was perfect, as if he were standing in the room with her. Hearing his voice, the voice she knew all too well, and had to fill in with her memories every time she heard the recording, just speak to her is too much.
Her brain is stalled.
How is this possible? Is this real? Is this a dream? She pinches her cheek, feeling pain, but unable to look away from the device. She whimpers, Barlin.
Jermel.
Hestori. Tria breaks into sobs as she slumps onto her tea table, hugging the device tenderly. Her feline ear touches the activation button again inadvertently, and the cheer starts before the voices speak. Crystal clear voices, perfectly emulating the speakers as they were the day they recorded it. The most beautiful and clear rendition of their family lullaby that has ever existed. Tria clutches it even closer to her cheek, crying as the voices bring her comfort and resolve, as well as a flood of memories, both good and bad. All of them tender and full of love. Belle's tram lingers in the darkness of a closet that has yet to be used. Entering the room was easy. It's the perfect location, since few know this room now has an owner. The owner is also the most hated person in the fort. In fact, it was a perfect sequence of events. The watchstanders watching over him were dismissed, and now he'll be all alone in a room for several hours. Whenever he shows up. Daniel presents the only hole in the story of how he ended up disappearing for a week.
If he saw her, he can claim she pushed him.
If she tries to claim she was attacked, it would be clear to everyone that saw her that she wasn't attacked. She had no real injuries or damage to her equipment. Daniel has a weak and pathetic presence, and he would be easy to kill. The commander even pretends to like him to earn his trust. That way, he won't question why he suddenly has the luxury of a private room. Because, he'll be missing for a week once more. And this time, she will be able to verify the job is done. Bellstram passes the time meditating, listening for him to enter. She knows he lingers in the smithy long into the night, but tomorrow is her off day, so she won't have to worry about being needed and can catch up on her own sleep. She had to make sure she got inside long before anyone would see or notice her. Suddenly, banging on the door occurs. It goes on for several seconds. Bellstram remains silent, though it's strange. It should be getting close to the time he'll return.
Daniel. Daniel, it's me. Tria. Please open up.
Surprised, Bellstram hesitates. Why would she be here? Is she planning to do the same thing as Bellstram?
Daniel. We have to talk. Please.
Bellstram doesn't want the door to be opened by anyone else. If anyone comes in for an inspection and finds Bellstram in his room, the deceit will be ruined. Regardless, Tria hasn't said anything about their discussion from before. In fact, she seems to hate Daniel even more than anyone else. Though, she must have been an actress in a previous life, because she's really selling the desperation. Bellstram cracks the door open, peeking through the crack. She whispers, "Hey, quiet down." Tria's eyes go wide.
B. Bellstram?
WH what?
SHHHH.
I'm here for the same reason you are. Tria looks like she's been crying, but what about is unclear. The S dash. Where's Daniel? He hasn't come back yet. Listen, I'll take care of the messy part. You just. Tria doesn't pay attention. She seems to have lost interest the moment Bellstram revealed Daniel isn't here. She instantly turns up the hallway, and she trots away, as if she's desperately trying to find him. WH dash.
What's happening? Is she already?
Bellstram's instincts crawl. She slips out of Daniel's room and jogs after Tria. However it happens, a deep part of Bellstram wants to ensure she witnesses it. Of course, she doesn't actually know what's going through Tria's head right now. Earlier, Daniel is making his way out of the bathhouse, having cleaned up after his time in the smithy. He doesn't mind the smell of the smoke, but it's nice to have a room finally, to justify bathing daily. It's his own space, and he's able to stash his custom-made creations where he can keep them clean and intact. He also can build up a stockpile of bullets without anyone asking questions. He still hasn't tested either the rifle nor the revolver he managed to finish today, but because he overdesigned the basic components, they both should work. That said, as he's headed for the barracks, Gwenesphia catches his attention.
Daniel.
She waves him down, jogging closer.
Lieutenant.
A little late for you to be awake, isn't it? She smirks. Thank you for your concern, but I'm off tomorrow, so I'll be all right. She smiles warmly. Since we both seem to be off for the moment, would you keep me company in the break area?
Me.
With a nod she adds, I haven't been as kind to you as I wish I would have been, and I want to try to clear the fog.
Please.
She folds her ears down cutely with big eyes to plead. Daniel hesitates, but he asks again.
Me? You sure?
She nods warmly.
Of course. Who else?
Almost literally anyone.
She scoffs. Come on.
She takes his hand and pulls him to the break area, which is attached to the barracks building, but separate. There's only a couple of others in the break area, sitting and chatting, and Gwenesphia gently but forcefully shoves Daniel onto one of the longer cushioned seats. She plops down beside him, and her tail swishes a little behind her as she sits awkwardly. She sighs, trying to break the tension a little, though Daniel's not sure what's happening. Gwenesphia has been one of the more amenable individuals at Fort Peie, but they haven't interacted that much. She clears her throat saying, Daniel, will you indulge me a little further?
Sure.
She smiles brightly. Without further hesitation, she lays down on his lap, sprawling across him as she stretches and finds a comfortable position. She sighs contentedly. Her voice goes soft as she gingerly swirls her finger on his knee. I wanted to talk a little about myself, if that's all right.
I don't mind.
She wriggles a little, finding that perfect comfort spot, and Daniel sits patiently. I'm the youngest of 7 siblings, so my family's nobility will be pretty dried up after my eldest siblings get their titles and inheritance.
And I've come to terms with that.
But I joined on my terms to the advance guard so I could get stationed here, rather than being conscripted to the regular army.
There were talks, and
I wanted to serve somewhere meaningful if I was going to have to serve.
I get that.
I'm surprised even noble houses can be conscripted from. My father's a baron, so he's expected to muster troops for the general army, which then get loaned out to the empire for the war. Any family with more than 3 children are also subject to conscription, starting from the youngest adults, especially those unmarried.
She blushes a little. Obviously, that included me. But Fort Peie has become my home.
I trust and respect everyone here. She stops her finger swirling for a moment, murmuring softly, "That includes you. Are you sure you should?" She scoffs a little against his thigh, rolling onto her back to look up at him. A lecherous man shows up at a base full of women, and he doesn't even look at them, let alone harm them. I don't know what you're attracted to, or what your reasons are, but I want to know the truth about you. I shared, so it's your turn now.
I told you, didn't I?
I did what I believe is right. Then, why did you have to expose the princess? Why didn't you explain to your kingdom?
That kingdom?
Isn't the king an otherworlder like you?
Daniel sighs.
You ask valid questions, but I don't like confrontation. Her corset was in the way, and her skin has to be in contact for the spell I had a companion perform. It shocked the princess's heart back to life. If I had delayed, she would have been unrecoverable. We were lucky as it was. There wasn't time to hide her or make the others leave.
There wasn't time.
I knew what to do to save her. The consequences other than her death were the furthest things from my mind. She smiles gently. And did she survive?
She did.
She was recovering when the decision to banish me was made. She nods as she listens.
That's good. Hey, Daniel.
Do you want to touch my chest? I have no urge to do so. So, you don't find me attractive?
She pouts on his lap.
I didn't say that. The feline woman cocks her head. Say it clearly then.
That's forward.
You're attractive. But, I've overcome many urges in favor of self-control in my life.
I see.
She takes his hand and places it on her abdomen. She says softly, "Feel free."
I won't mind.
With a scoff, he asks, "Are you sure you want to be doing any of this? Rumors are certain to arise." Shut up and rub my belly. Rumors are just words.
I know they're wrong.
Daniel hesitates, but he gingerly moves his hand across her abdomen in small, swirling motions. She hums with a smile, stretching again. She murmurs tenderly, "Thank you." Daniel relaxes as the young woman rests on his lap. He loses track of time, and when he looks at her after a bit, she's completely asleep. He sighs quietly.
I see.
He doesn't have anywhere to be, so he relaxes quietly. After a short while, the door to the break area bursts open.
Daniel.
He looks towards the door to his left and behind the sofa-like thing they were sitting on. It's Sergeant Peie, and she looks like she's been scrambling around. Her eyes are full of hurt and tears, and Daniel immediately goes on guard. He bolts out from under Gwenesfia's head, and she jolts awake. For now, he can't focus on her. He moves away from the lieutenant. "Sergeant? What can I do for you?" Pei's eyes lock onto him, and her face twists. She groans in a strange, strained tone. There are only a few yards between him and her, and the sofa won't stop her for long. He knows the Gatanines are deceptively strong and agile. She can likely pounce the distance between them without needing to crouch.
And she does.
Daniel braces, blocking his face and neck with his arms. However, he isn't hit high, where his easy-to-target vitals are. He's tackled low, and his foot catches the corner of the coffee table, toppling him. He manages to slow his fall with his left arm, and he can feel Pei's arms wrapped around his waist firmly. Daniel's thoughts and heart are racing, screaming up to speed from his relaxed and groggy state a moment ago. Surprisingly, as he tries to get footing, he hears sniffling and sobbing.
From his waist.
Peie is clinging to him and crying. She's not trying to eviscerate him with her sharp teeth. She's not trying to strip his pants and target his masculine parts. She's clinging to his waist as she cries into his abdomen. Why?
Daniel.
Please forgive me.
Wayawa.
Confused, Daniel looks at Gwen, who is sitting up with wide eyes. And the small handful of others that were relaxing in the break area are also gathered around, watching the scene. Daniel asks,
Sergeant? What are you,
She snaps her gaze up, all but pouring buckets of tears from her eyes as she whimpers desperately. She pulls her face closer to him, the only brief instances that she releases his waist, but she grips his shirt's chest tightly as she pleads, "Please forgive me, Dee Daniel. I'm so sorry." It's strange to hear her speaking so poorly as her sniffles and sobs choke her words. Daniel relaxes on his back, keeping his hands up and ready, but disarmed and diplomatic as well. "I don't know what I need to forgive. Sergeant, I don't understand."
Her face twists, and she looks down.
Tears are dripping continuously on his chest and neck, and she chokes out. I treated. I said such terrible things. Please. I'm so sorry." She sniffs deeply, and her nose slurps in an undignified way. I'll do anything. Please forgive me."
Okay. Please calm down.
I have no idea what's going on." She slumps onto him, sobbing unintelligibly into his chest for a long time. Everyone watches awkwardly. Gwen kneels next to them, placing a hand on Tria's shoulder as the latter finally begins to calm down.
Sergeant.
What's going on? Tria whimpers, "I can't do it anymore.
I can't
hate him. I don't want to.
He's.
She looks up at Daniel, choking out, "Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Daniel.
I can't repay you. I'll dedicate my life to, but I can't pay you what it's worth." A flash of recognition probably slipped across Daniel's face, but he deflects. I don't know what you're talking about, Sergeant.
I haven't done.
She throws her arms around his neck, hugging him.
Stop lying. Please stop lying.
It works better than ever.
Thank you.
I was so scared I'd never hear his voice again. Gwenesphia, apparently knowing enough about her comrade, asks softly, "Did something happen to your memory crystal, Tria?" Tria has to nod while she sniffles before she can form words to answer.
I dropped it.
And it stopped working. She stares into Daniel's eyes with her own watering once more.
I'm sorry, Daniel.
I'm sorry I couldn't ask you myself. I wanted to, but I'm sorry.
Daniel sighs.
You have lovely siblings, Sergeant. I'm glad I could help. She sniffles, hiding her face in his damp chest once more as she clings to him. It's the only way. I can hear his Barlin's voice. I thought it was gone. Daniel replies softly as he pets her head, "I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sure they're proud of the work you do." Her ears flick a little, but she nuzzles her cheek against his chest. She whimpers, and her grip tightens on Daniel. "They'd be ashamed of me, of how dreadful I am."
Don't worry about it.
I didn't give anyone here a reason to redeem me. I don't feel there's anything needing it, but if you need it, I forgive you. So, you don't have to worry anymore. The books are square as far as I'm concerned. She shakes her head against his chest. Not good enough. She looks into his eyes with determination. Her eyes are red, and her cheeks are soaked, but she has a strong sense of resolve. I owe you everything, Daniel. I will repay you. There's nothing to repay. I just fixed a thing. It's everything to you, and I'm happy for you. But, it's just a trinket to me.
He smiles.
So, there's nothing owed. My fee has already been paid.
She cocks her head. Fee. Yes, ma'am.
I've already asked for a fee, and it was paid.
All set.
One of the women lingering nearby asks, Tria? Are you too saying? Daniel can fix magical devices. Tria glances at Daniel first, but she addresses the woman who just spoke with a nod.
Yes. She sniffles.
He was able to make my memory crystal work after being dropped, and it works better than before. Her eyes water it. It was their voices, exactly as they sounded. Is that true? Asks one of the younger junior officers. Gwenesphia is the one to answer this time. I didn't witness the memory crystal, but Daniel is the reason the bathhouse heater and the central air started working again. The women glance at each other. Daniel replies, I wouldn't say I can fix everything. I got lucky with Dash. Gwen covers his mouth with a smile. Before she says anything, the young officer points out, I heard from the medical team that Daniel is immune to magic, or something. How can he fix magical devices? Gwen replies, he can't make magic crystals, like an artificer or artisan could. But, he can fix anything else. Isn't that right, Daniel? She keeps her hand on his mouth, preventing him from being deflective.
He sighs, nodding. She smiles.
You have a terrible habit of stealing your own pride, Daniel. She releases his mouth, and Tria sniffles.
Agreed.
An artificer alone would charge thousands of Volden for repairing it. And it might lose the memory. Daniel replies gently, that was a risk. The memory stone is a stone, rather than a crystal, but if its runes are damaged, it would have been. She stares at him with a distant expression.
He sighs.
Dropping it could potentially damage the memory stone, which I couldn't have repaired. Please continue to be careful with the device. She smiles, scoffing.
I will. Thank you, Daniel.
And I will repay the debt I personally owe you.
I promise.
I wish you'd let it go. She glares at him softly, and he sighs.
Do what you want, Sergeant.
She takes a somewhat soft, sassy tone. I don't answer to you. He cocks his head a little, and she grins. The sergeant hugs his head one last time, kissing his cheek affectionately. Suddenly, she flinches though, and turns serious.
Daniel.
Can I talk to you in private for a minute?
I sure. Though.
Gwenesphia states, I'll serve as intermediary for all our sakes. She makes eye contact with Tria, which seems to be acceptable, and Tria nods in agreement. She climbs off of Daniel, and all three climb to their feet. Tria states, please come with me. She leads them to a secluded meeting room in the office building, and she verifies no one followed them. She murmurs, Daniel, has anyone tried to get you alone since you returned from being lost? You mean other than you two?
They nod.
Not really. I can count on one hand the number of people here who talk to me without hostility. Tria flinches a little, and she murmurs, sorry.
I don't hold it against anyone.
It'll make leaving easier if and when the time comes.
He hums, Let's see.
The commander, I guess, is the only person who's taken me aside. She's obviously the one that asked me to repair the memory crystal.
Tria nods to confirm.
I shouldn't say right now.
But, I will tell you soon, Daniel. I promise.
He's understandably confused, and she continues with her original thought.
I think.
Do you know what happened the day you fell, Daniel? Only that something hit me. I didn't get a look at it, though. I assumed it was an animal. Tria and Gwenesphia share a glance.
Tria sighs. It was Belstram.
She was on free scouting at the same time, and she expressed how you disappeared before you ever returned. Gwen adds a subtle nod, adding, she also made a point of celebrating your disappearance. That part, unfortunately, is not unique to her. Tria adds coldly, this part is. She was lying in wait in Daniel's barracks room this evening. Something very few people know about because he received it from the commander very recently. Daniel asks, Belstram broke into my room? Tria confirms softly, yes. I was trying to find you, and she answered the door. I think, because she thought I was on her side. Because of how you've been treating me, observes Daniel pragmatically.
She nods softly. Please stop apologizing, Sergeant.
I forgive you. I'd like you to understand what I did and why I did it, if you'll allow it, but another time. I don't have any allies here, and I don't have any evidence. I'll just have to wait until Belstram tries something, I guess. If I'm lucky, I'll survive. The two women pout a little. However, Gwen just as quickly perks up. I don't think we have to risk it. The commander. I have it on good authority she's really good at interrogations. Really good, if you know what I mean. Daniel says it with a little humor and without thinking, what? She can magically detect lies. Gwen and Tria's eyes both go wide. Gwenesphia nods, asking at a whisper, why yeah. How did you know?
Daniel laughs. I didn't.
It's just the most logical conclusion from what you insinuated. Or, the most predictable if this was a story. Tria asks, should we go wake the commander? Gwen replies with her hand on her chin, I don't think we need to do that. We can wait until morning. But what if? We can wait, because I'll sleep in Daniel's room with him. Huh? Ask both Daniel and Tria in unison. Gwen smiles with a slight blush, and Tria sighs. She turns to Daniel, saying matter-of-factly, Daniel, ignore her.
She's in heat.
It's not a good idea to be alone in a room with her.
Gwen whines, what?
That's wrong. Daniel looks at her, and then at Tria, who retorts, I can smell it on you. And, could you be any more obvious with an idea like that? Gwen squirms a little. I didn't say I wasn't.
But, it's a good idea.
No one will try anything with someone there, right? She purrs softly, and if we're awake the whole time, she leans towards Daniel, and Tria puts herself between them, fending off the Gatanine lieutenant.
No. I'll do it.
I'm in my right state of mind. Gwen puts her ears back, whining like a child. That's not fair. You just want to keep him to yourself. Tria keeps a straight face, saying bluntly no. I want to keep him from getting killed. And it's not time for me to go to sleep, so I can watch over him. As Gwen tries to reach Daniel and Tria holds her back, Daniel remarks in surprise, wait. You're serious, aren't you? Tria glares at him a little. About Bellstram?
And no.
About Lieutenant Gwenesphia. They both freeze, and Gwen blushes. She asks sheepishly, Are there no races in your world that go into heat, Daniel? He chuckles nervously.
And not people.
Though, I guess humans go through a light version.
Tria scoffs.
Humans have it lucky. Come tomorrow, she's going to be dazed, hot, cold, hungry, thirsty, empty, and pitiful until the infirmary opens. And if that wasn't clear, that's what she'll feel like, the aroused version. The feline woman purrs with a pouty and pleading expression, You could cure me tonight, Daniel. Tria urges, She's not thinking clearly, Daniel. The commander might kill you if she loses a lieutenant to pregnancy, now of all times.
Daniel chuckles.
He says as diplomatically as he can, Thank you both, but I have a better idea. Gwenesphia instantly gasps.
My room?
I can't believe I didn't think of that. She purrs, I have a very soft and comfortable cover and pillows, Daniel.
No. I'll handle it. You two go ahead and...
Tria sighs in disgust. You're not sleeping outside, Daniel. Both of you will stay in my room for the rest of the night. Gwen can watch me, I can watch Gwen, and no one will know where you're at. Will that work?
Gwenesphia pouts. No. Daniel thinks for a moment.
Are you all right with that? Tria crosses her arms and looks away.
I owe you.
I would be a disgrace to my siblings if I refused to help you now. I won't ask you if. She grips his shirt and presses her head to his chest, hiding her face.
Don't, please don't. Just agree. Please. Okay.
I'll be in your care then.
Gwen teases, Me too, Daniel. I'll keep you safe.
Her tone is devious, and Daniel is concerned that Gwenesphia might not be nearly as rational as she has appeared so far this night. But they just have to make it to morning, when the commander will be awake. Daniel was brought to this world by surprise. He was born and grew up on Earth, but through a strange magical ritual, he appeared in a world that seemed to have been spawned from the imaginings of a fantasy writer. However, he was delivered into the world without the expected benefits being summoned is supposed to provide. He doesn't even have magic, which is part of nature in the world he's in now. He has stayed afloat using his knowledge of modern troubleshooting and repair techniques, as well as several modern technologies that didn't exist prior to him, and which he could find ways to develop. And now, he's lying on the floor of one of his fellow personnel on the fort, blocking one of the few ways through the mountains separating the demons from the allied kingdoms. If it stopped there, it would just be another day in the military for him. Of course, this comrade is a Gatanine woman who, until very recently, vehemently expressed disgust for his very existence. Yet, the story gets stranger, were Daniel telling the story. They managed to get Gwenesphia to sleep on Tria's bed, and Tria had intended to keep watch or simply relax, since she's a night shift watchstander and would normally be awake when Daniel and Gwenesphia are asleep. Instead, Tria is the one laying against Daniel's chest, fast asleep. She had a good cry after seeing her memory crystal device repaired, and even Gwenesphia remarked on how clear and smooth the voices were. Daniel suspects that Tria's sonic crystal was broken long before she dropped it, and it was working because it was still conductive. During his repairs, Daniel also cushioned the crystal so it wouldn't rattle or buzz against the metals of the frame. Given that another person remarked on it, Daniel suspects that everyone simply accepts the hollow sound of voices recorded, like old recordings on vinyl records. Daniel shifts a little, and Tria stirs. She opens her eyes, noticing Daniel looking at her. She instantly sits up with a tense posture. Daniel. Gee, good morning. This wasn't what you think.
Daniel sighs. I don't think anything.
Thanks for sheltering me. She blushes, asking, WWHWH-?
Your room. She flinches. Oh. All right. Of course.
She looks away, saying softly, I promise to repay you.
I will. Right. I know.
He climbs to his feet, stretching. Gwenesphia is fast asleep, and she looks exactly like one would expect, given her biological state at the moment. Her tail is flipping slowly back and forth, drawing attention to the posture she's sleeping in. Daniel asks, "Will she be all right?" Trya confirms softly,
Yes.
"It's a natural cycle we go through."
She can still function.
She just gets dulled senses in the presence of a man, particularly one she has affection for.
She crosses her arms.
"I hope I don't have to explain further."
I got it. Thank you.
"Do you mind watching over her? I'll make my way out first so no one catches me leaving your room." She replies with a gentle nod.
All right. I agree.
Daniel heads for the door, putting his boots on. However, as he reaches for the door, a small tug pulls at his shirt's back.
He looks, and Trya averts her eyes. Listen. Be careful.
"I don't know if anyone else is part of it."
Thank you, Trya.
"I'm sorry for causing you worry." She whirls, looking away. "I'm not concerned about you. You're an important asset, since you can fix magic devices. It'd be stupid to let you get hurt, killed dash. To let you get killed, is what I meant." Daniel chuckles, but he doesn't poke fun at her. She's being defensive because she doesn't want to express what she's actually thinking or feeling. He's not sure what they are, but she's hiding her feelings all the same.
I'll be careful. You be careful too.
I'm concerned for your safety by helping me. She spins with rosy cheeks.
Wha.
Daniel smiles and nods. He leaves the room and heads for the common area of the base. From there, he gets water and stops by the quartermaster to get his rations for the day. Then, he makes his way to the office building to wait for Commander Laywells to arrive. He yawns a little from some residual exhaustion, but he feels pretty good overall. Eventually, Commander Laywells makes her way in. Other than when he met with her following her bath, she's in a relatively dressed-down state. Her hair isn't pulled into a neat bun, and she has her uniform mantle haphazardly draped on her shoulder instead of straightened and tied off to her jacket in a proper manner. She remarks with seemingly no interest, "Daniel. Bright and early. As I would expect." Daniel nods politely.
Commander.
"Good morning."
He salutes her, and she replies, at ease.
"Anything to report?" He replies as he follows her into her office. "Nothing pressing, Commander. But, would you have time to do a room inspection today? The more thorough the better." She looks at him skeptically, her hands behind her head as she works on her hair.
On whose room? My own.
I refrained from returning to it last night because I believe someone broke in. Why do you think that?
Simple things.
Scratches around the keyhole, a lighter smell in the room than it was when I left, similar to a different or more expensive soap than what I use. That sort of thing.
She cocks her head.
Do you have a suspect?
No, Commander.
I was wondering if this world has, ways of determining that. We called it forensics. Finding hairs, fingerprints, blood, any clues that can uniquely identify who it was. We have a couple investigation specialists here at the garden. You seem awfully calm though. I have very little of value, Commander. I also have a room where no one would look for me for a long time, I suspect. Are you accusing my fort of containing ally slayers?
No, Commander.
I am fairly confident I'm not viewed as an ally by most of the fort. She scowls at him for a moment, but he keeps a respectful tone and posture. He adds, I don't know if anyone has murderous intent. But I would like to find out if someone did in fact break in. Commander Laywell sighs, dropping her facade. I have heard a rumor. However, I have an idea for a solution.
I'm listening.
Are you familiar with trial by combat?
Sort of.
It was a concept in my world. An ancient and outdated one, but no less known to me. I fight against the other individual or a representative to prove my innocence. With an affirming nod, Laywells explains, mostly accurate. In this case, we'll be determining which of you is right and protected by the gods.
Daniel chuckles.
We might as well skip to the execution then. I'm pretty sure they don't have any feelings for me. I'm not even a shadow in the annals of their subconscious.
She scoffs.
You can be surprisingly refined when you choose to be, can't you? Regardless, more will be learned this way than by mere investigation. Do you accept? Daniel agrees with little reluctance.
Why not?
If you think this will work, then I'll do it.
She nods as she confirms. I do. Let's go.
Trya jogs out into the common area of the fort, where a large crowd of off-duty soldiers are gathered. Commander Laywells is up on the announcing stage with Daniel standing next to her. She waits a little longer as the crowd grows a little more. My beautiful flowers of the legendary flower garden. Hear this. I have grown tired of the complaints and the suspicion. Let us end this farce once and for all. Daniel of the Otherworld shall face trial by combat. Let his innocence or guilt be proven by his strength and the shade of his blood. The warriors of the fort, mostly women, but the few men as well, cheer. Only a couple remain silent, Tria and Gwenesphia. They share a glance with each other, nervous about the immediate future. Laywells declares, I need a volunteer, someone who will ensure a fair and thorough trial. A few hands go up, and Tria flinches. Daniel hasn't shown himself to have any real combat ability. He's never held a weapon, and he's never sparred with anyone, mainly because most of them would kill him accidentally. In this case, it seems like Laywells is intentionally courting his death. The commander studies the hands for a moment.
She perks up. Ah. Belstram. How about you? A shiver runs up Tria's spine.
Daniel has met an undue level of hostility since coming to Fort Peie, but one person is highly suspected to have actually attempted to kill him once already, and plotted to do so a second time more recently. Now the commander, knowing this, has chosen Belstram for a battle, potentially to the death, involving Daniel. Just before Tria can call out, Gwenesphia exclaims, Commander. Laywells looks at the lieutenant with her icy gaze.
What is it, Lieutenant?
If Daniel truly is innocent of his crimes, as you believe, he will be able to persevere. That's. Daniel's not. Gwenesphia struggles to put her thoughts into words. Technically, she shouldn't know about Belstram, since Belstram still thinks only Tria knows anything.
Say something.
Daniel's going to die.
Tria hesitates, unable to call out.
She closes her eyes, trying to summon the courage to take a stand for someone she admittedly misunderstood.
Why?
Why do I feel this way for someone like him? He's still a stranger. I don't know anything about him. Tria blurts out without thinking, Commander. The gods do not reside on the battlefield of mortals. There will be no divine protection here. And, Daniel was forsaken by the gods when he was sentenced here. If you think so lowly of him, why bother with this? Just kill him and be done. She flinches when she realizes what all she just said. She believes it all to be true, but taken the wrong way.
Laywells smirks. Oh?
That's an interesting take, Sergeant. Looking after your comrade, Belstram, are you? I suppose you bring a valid point.
And no, that's. I meant.
Perhaps, Daniel, you would agree to saving us all some time, yes? Daniel glances at Tria, and it causes her to flinch. She tries to object, but the words stick in her throat. Daniel then looks at Laywells, and then down at the ground. I'd prefer to take my chances, Commander.
Laywells smirks. Very well.
Trial by combat it is. Belstram will be the opponent. Belstram draws her sword with a smirk. Daniel could use a weapon if he had one, but he doesn't. They face each other on the ground in a large circle formed by the soldiers of the fort. Laywells explains from the stage, innocence or guilt will be determined by incapacitation or death. The accused may surrender and confess at any time. All skills and weapons belonging to either party may be used.
Tria watches in horror.
It's descending out of control. Daniel doesn't stand a chance. Belstram swings her sword to loosen her joints and check her armor's fitting. Daniel simply assumes a ready brawler's stance, a complete amateur, considering his lack of fear.
She twitches. But wait.
Daniel is a divine summon. And maybe he does have a special ability given by the gods. Or boosted strength.
Maybe.
He's going to die.
Tria starts to call out, Daniel. You have to.
Gong 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 gong. The bell for the west gate starts chiming loudly, drowning out the cheers for the impending fight. Everyone looks, and in the sky, there rests 3 stars in the middle of the day. Unfortunately, guiding beacons of the night, these are not. They are a communication from the scouting regiment belonging to the reconnaissance teams much further into demon territory than the controlled zone. And the colors of these flares, lingering in the sky, reveal the threat that must be communicated as soon as possible. With 3 red flares, there's only one possibility. Commander Laywells murmurs during a lull in the chiming of the bells, dragons.
The fort's alarms are raised.
3 flares in the sky seem to have told everyone what they needed to know. And immediately following, the base descended into a form of controlled chaos. However, contrary to what Daniel might have expected, the base is not bolstering defenses in preparation to defend. They are making preparations to evacuate. Daniel is surprised, to say the least, and he manages to catch Tria, asking, what's going on? She explains, dragons. Dragons are coming. What about defending? Are you crazy? We're pulling back to the main garrison, where there might be enough firepower to stop them. But as it is, we will barely slow them down. It's how it has to be. Get what you can't live without, Daniel, and hurry to a cart. Tria helps organize evacuations, while Daniel finds Laywells, similarly directing troops. She spots him, stating, "Now's not the time. Prepare to evacuate, Daniel."
He shakes his head.
"Commander, I think I'll stay."
She looks at him.
"I have secretly been preparing some spells from my world. Maybe they can't stop a dragon, but let me at least try."
It's futile, Daniel.
Dragons can withstand a siege. You were about to have me slain, Commander. Allow me to choose how I die. Final request. She hesitates, looking away. She murmurs, barely audible over the uproar, "I wasn't trying to have you slain."
She sighs.
"Set your otherworldly traps and prepare to dash." "It's not that simple. I'll have to remain present at least long enough to see the enemy. Once I've confirmed success or failure, I'll retreat." "Why should I believe you won't simply surrender to the enemy? I was brought here as a prisoner. The only intel I would have to sell is on this fort, which you're about to abandon. Otherwise, I'm the weakest human in this world, possessing no magic.
Give me a chance." She sighs. "Very well. Do what you want, Daniel.
We'll leave an extra mount for you to catch up." He nods gratefully in agreement. "Leave too," shouts Gwenesphia as she jogs up, having overheard enough of the conversation. "I'll stay with Daniel." Daniel turns to the lieutenant, thinking quickly. She smiles at him, saying tenderly, "I won't abandon you."
"Gwen, please go." She blushes. "Gee, Gwen."
He smiles tenderly.
"Don't you remember
"What we did last night?" Her eyes widen, and she tries to think.
She squeaks,
We only." He whispers, "I need you to be safe, Gwen. You and them." He touches her abdomen gently, and she squirms lightly, but she takes his hand for a moment. She gets what he's saying, but she doesn't remember. Of course she doesn't remember. It's a lie. I'm hoping she'll by her own clouded state of mind long enough to believe it. He kisses her gently, adding softly, "I promise I'll come back and give them siblings, but
please go.
I can't protect you and enact my plan." She hesitates, but she blushes.
I don't." Daniel sighs.
"I was afraid of that. I guess it wasn't that memorable." She flinches but says, Daniel, she pouts, but she says tenderly, Keep your promise, Daniel. I won't forgive you if you don't." He reassures her gently, "I will. Please go with the evacuation. I'll catch up." She nods reluctantly, joining one of the carriages. Daniel and the commander share a glance, and she gives a subtle nod as her silent blessing. Daniel bows his head just as subtly, and he jogs to his own room. He needs to gather his gear. As the last of the carts and horse-like mounts are leaving the fort, Daniel finds Tria arguing with the last cart, on which is the commander. "I'm not leaving. I have my own reasons to stay." Daniel's methods don't require help, Sergeant.
"Get in."
Daniel jogs up, carrying his rifle and shoulder bag full of ammunition and explosives. "What's going on?" Tria replies, "Daniel, I'm going to stay. I told you I owe you an unpayable debt. And if a cowardly otherworlder is going to make a stand, what would I be if I fled?" Daniel replies, "Intelligent." She glares at him, and he sighs. "Listen, I don't need help, and I'll be catching up as quickly as I can. Please just leave me behind."
"No."
Daniel glances at Laywells, who is hesitant. Daniel is relatively expendable, or he's the only one who stands a chance. Those are the two options Laywells is weighing for him. For anyone else, she doesn't want to waste their lives. And on that, he and she agree. Daniel turns Tria by the shoulder, saying, "Commander, I'm afraid it's come to this. If she insists." Tria straightens her posture, believing for that moment that she convinced him. And just as quickly, Daniel throws his weight onto her, pinning her to the ground. He wrestles her arms as she shrieks at him, "Daniel? What are you doing?" He manages to pull her arms behind her, tying them, and then he uses the same rope he pulled from his bag to bind her legs, sashing them together to hogtie her and completely immobilize the flexible feline woman. She squirms violently and snarls out threats and demands, but Daniel ignores them. Once she can't escape, he stands up, saying to the commander, "Please forgive this indignity, Commander. She's being irrational." She sighs and nods, hopping down to help him load Trya into the cart. You can't do this.
Daniel.
Daniel, don't do this. Let me help you. You bastard. Daniel pets her head once she's in the cart.
Trya.
Thank you for everything. I know I couldn't lie to you and get you to go.
Please, understand. I want you to be safe.
Tell Lieutenant Gwenesphia that I'm sorry I deceived her. If I make it through this, I'll accept punishment. He smiles at her, and her eyes go wide with horror.
Commander.
Commander, please. Don't do this.
Leigh Wells hesitates.
She stands up, holding out a hand and declaring with her powerful voice, Daniel, I have used you for my own ends, and I intended to use you further. So, I command you as possibly my last order to you, survive your ordeals. If you truly are a divine summon, save this world from itself, or survive as a soldier to fight another day. These are the only choices I allot to you. Disobey me at your peril. He chuckles but bows.
As you wish, Commander.
I will do my very best. She acknowledges him with a nod, instructing the driver of the last cart to move. She watches as Daniel sees them off, turning away in a quiet shame. Daniel doesn't care though. He has needed to test his weapons, and he didn't want to do it where the others would see. Unfortunately, he'll be testing them in the thick of battle, and against enemies so terrifying, a fort at the end of the world isn't even going to try. Which reminds him, the reconnaissance teams are still west of the fort. If they try to flee the enemy, they'll likely need all the time they can get. He jogs to the west gate, opening it so that the scouts can continue through without impedance. If the dragons are truly such a grave threat, then the gate alone will do little, since any troops with the dragons will advance at a pace similar to that of the dragons themselves. Once that's done, Daniel makes some simple preparations. He stages training dummies on the wall with armor and weapons, making it look like the fort is still manned at a glance, particularly from the air. He doesn't know how long it will take for the dragons to arrive, since he doesn't know how far the perimeter the recon team's form actually is. There are also other factors at play as well. Are the dragons escorting an infantry? If so, they'll likely advance at a rate the slowest can move, at their own quickest of course dash. If they are fully aware of Fort Peie, which would be shocking if they weren't dash, they could launch vanguard attacks to try to catch the fort off guard. However, it's likely the dragons are the siege weapons, rather than the vanguard. They'll rest until the infantry can advance no further, and obliterate any defenses with strong attacks. Treating them like tanks is fitting, since his weapon is modeled after an anti-tank rifle, even if its crude design would make true arms makers of his world weep with its shoddy craftsmanship. Once he has some fake soldiers staged, he carefully ventures out into the clearing in front of the fortress on the west side. He digs a few holes, placing landmines he crafted. He then lays out some fuses that he made, connected to the landmines, since he wasn't sure how best to make a pressure trigger. Thankfully, he has knowledge of many kinds of battles of history. He's far from an expert, but he can use his own creativity to do the best he can to fill in the gaps. With a flammable oil he managed to blend, he makes a wide trail that will be easy to hit with a flaming arrow, even for him. And once lit, will contact the fuses. It won't be elegant. But if he can distract his enemies with theatrics, he might be able to give them pause and draw out his real targets. Daniel knows that if he fails to kill the dragon, he won't make it far, even with a mount. Which is why, when the recon scouts suddenly burst out of the clearing as he's making final preparations, he calls out to them. There are a couple of mounts left.
Hurry. Daniel. Don't delay. I'm earning my full pardon. Go.
Regroup with the main garrison. The lead officer hesitates as the other scouts nod, jogging ahead. The scout commander bows briefly, running after her troops. They should be only a short distance behind. May the gods protect you. Fortunately, the mounts of this world, which share more traits with rhinos than with actual horses, are actually pretty large and strong, making it easy to carry multiple people. Daniel is content with his decision. He's afraid, but he feels ready. It's not specific, but it's only natural that the enemy would be advancing at a pace only slightly slower than the retreating recon soldiers. He has only a little more time. He returns to the top of the wall, readying his rifle and his revolver. He also sets a small fire next to himself and prepares some flaming arrows. As with all things, he gets the gist of archery. He knows which way to point the sharp end of the arrow. He intentionally made the oil field large enough that even he can't miss. And if he does, he has an extra try or so. From there, he just needs to distract the enemies long enough for them not to notice the fuses. Trees begin cracking and rumbling, but it's a fair distance behind the sounds of marching. Foot soldiers of the demon army are the first to emerge from the tree line. There are obvious fantasy monster-like races, small goblins and imps leading as the apparent cannon fodder, Oni-looking demons and more bestial animalistic races that resemble tigers and wolves as heavier infantry, and ogres and lumbering monsters with 4 legs as wall breakers. Leading the militia appears to be a female being with 2 deer-like horns emerging from her silvery blue hair. Stripes pattern her skin, and she bears an ornamental staff made of something resembling ceramic, most likely the tusk of some great creature like an elephant. Daniel tries not to draw attention to himself, keeping himself hidden low on the ramparts and shouting through an echo horn, "You there!
Turn back.
You shall not cross this barrier. Those who try shall be met with the grim face of despair." A few of the beastmen fire arrows at the wall, and Daniel braces in his secluded spot. The shields of several of his dummy soldiers take hits, wobbling. He shouts out screams and calls without the horn, making it seem like the arrows have landed some hits behind the wall. He doubts it's superbly convincing, but he keeps up the act.
You fools.
Your ignorance will buy you no mercy when you face the judgment of the god of despair. Daniel peeks over the wall. The goblins are cautiously marching forward. They've already passed the line of the landmines, and the heavy infantry are at the mines. The wall breakers are getting close, but his rifle should make easy work of the wall breakers. What are the odds the dragons were a false alarm? Daniel smirks at himself. Highly unlikely. He lights a couple of fuses at his feet, which race towards the fireworks launchers he made. They spew flames and sparks, and the warriors flinch, bracing behind shields. Daniel fires the flaming arrow next, and the fire hits the oil, erupting in a massive line of raging flames. The goblins are engulfed in the flames, shrieking and squealing as they burn, and those that escape the flames flee.
Daniel continues the show. Mwahahaha.
Turn back now, you pathetic weaklings. Turn back or perish. The woman, who seems to be something similar to an anthropomorphized Kirin of Asian mythology, snarls orders as the surviving goblins flee backwards, and the wall breakers bellow, lumbering forward.
Daniel sighs.
He's a little relieved, honestly. The heavy infantry are crossing the lines, and some begin throwing dirt on the flames. However, 15 explosions thunder out, ripping holes in the landscape as 10 times as many lives are snuffed out, including several of the wall breakers, who are dismembered by the blasts, while shrapnel maims and wounds the infantry soldiers. They collapse, some of them into the fires, and they cry out. The battlefield is filled with screams and cries. Daniel knows that black powder is relatively easy to make with the right ingredients, but because of magic, like so many other things his world relies on, it hasn't been invented yet. As such, explosions without chanting or triggering spell detection and enabling spell cancellation are unthinkable. The Kirin appears to be flustered by the loss of nearly half of her forces in little over a minute. Nevertheless, all of it is just to draw out Daniel's real target. He needs to face the dragons, because he assumes the warriors of Fort Peie could pretty easily handle the rest of the forces, or at least delay them properly. If he can't defeat the dragons, little changes. They can still march on the main garrison. But the main garrison should easily be able to handle everything else. And if he can thin their numbers in the process, all the better.
Daniel calls through the horn. Hwahahahaha.
What's wrong, Madame? I haven't even used any real magic yet. Don't tell me this is too much. I have so much more to teach you. Daniel can see it. The Kirin is getting frustrated. She's pacing back and forth as her lines crumble around her. The goblins have completely abandoned the battle, and the beastmen have fallen back behind the bodies of the wall breakers, those that have survived. The Kirin pulls a small curled tube from her belt and blows in it. The sound is similar to a clarinet with a single tone. Soon after, a bellowing roar emerges from the forest behind her.
And then, a second, even deeper one. Oh geez. 2?
Well, Daniel. Let's hope there's some actual luck on my side. Crimson wings emerge from the treeline, and with a broad and mighty sweep, they lift a massive reptilian body into the sky. It looks about like he would expect, and dreamed and fantasized about in his old world. Its scales glimmer in the evening light, and magical power glows in its thick, armored belly scales. Daniel shouts without the horn, "I call bull. Dragons can't fly." His heart is racing. He won't get many shots at defeating it. He calls through the horn, "That is your tide changer? Your final draw? That paltry bag of scales will be nothing but the lining for my boots." The dragon roars in a rage.
Oh.
Better be careful. Maybe they're sentient dragons here. It sweeps its great wings once more, and it gains momentum towards the wall. Daniel snatches his rifle and braces against the wall, hiding for a moment as he takes a deep, courage-boosting breath.
It's just a video game.
I put on a VR headset, and I'm in a video game. The graphics are just really good.
That's all.
I'll finish this level, log out, and get a stiff drink. Daniel pulls the bolt of the rifle up and back a little, checking the breech of his crude weapon. One of his brass shells is inside, ready to be fired. He closes the bolt, ready. Suddenly, he is jostled when a massive impact slams the wall near him, and he looks. He doesn't get long. A massive, blindingly bright jet of fire scorches the wall, and the stone melts away like butter, while the flame is swept away from Daniel towards the other end of the wall. He realizes dumb luck, which is sort of what he was counting on, is the only reason he's alive. He idly hoped that if the dragon's fire reaches him, he'd be snuffed out of existence in an instant before the pain could even register. In the off chance he got the opportunity, he needs to hit the dragon before it realizes he's the threat.
He rolls up to a kneel, taking aim. For a moment, he flinches.
Daniel served on an aircraft carrier, and the first time he approached it, having come from a small town, it was the largest single object he had ever seen. It was a colossal titan of human construction, a vessel of war larger than almost anything else on the water. Daniel remembers the feeling of being so small in comparison to the massive iron monolith. That feeling returns in the face of the largest living creature Daniel has ever seen with his own eyes. Its head appears to be comparable to an orca's in size, maybe a little larger. Its body is easily larger, and its tail sways across the ground, immune to the fire of the oil still burning weakly. Daniel can hear the Kirin taunting him. The dragon snorts as it surveys its handiwork and scans to the left towards Daniel. Its glowing purple eye pivots, and it locks onto Daniel. It's fully aware of him now. Its lips curl back, and it begins inhaling as it rears its head back. Thankfully, it's too late. Daniel steadies his breath and solidifies the stock against his shoulder. He exhales slowly and pulls the trigger. Asterisk.